Greetings, everyone. This evening, we embark on a journey into the mysterious and enigmatic year of 536, a year so deeply afflicted that even the most hardened of medieval peasants, accustomed to their share of suffering, pause to exchange glances and murmur, indeed, something is amiss. Before you settle in, why not take a moment to give the video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button? Yet, this journey unfolds only if you truly find joy in the tales I weave here. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Share where you're joining us from and what time it is in your corner of the world. It's truly captivating to witness the diverse souls who gather from every corner of the globe. Now, let us lower the lights, perhaps activate a fan to create a gentle background hum, and together we shall embark on tonight's adventure. Allow me to paint the picture. In the dawn of the 6th century, in the bustling market, you might find yourself as a merchant, a contemplative monk, or perhaps just a humble soul, praying that this year's turnip harvest brings fortune rather than despair. Life may not shine with glamour, yet it unfolds with a certain predictability. The seasons dance in their eternal rhythm. The sun ascends, fulfills its purpose, and yet here you are, grumbling as always. And 536 strikes, and in an instant, the sun ceases to shine. In the beginning, it whispers softly, with a handful of gray mornings and a sky that feels just a touch askew. As the sun struggles to break through, eyes narrow in anticipation, and the farmers exchange hushed words, a light-hearted quip about the deity's slumber floats through the air, yet the clouds remain steadfast, refusing to part. The glow remains faint. As the sun rises and sets, time flows onward. Days turned into weeks. The sun drags itself through the sky, as if merely going through the motions, putting in just enough effort to avoid being dismissed. Across Europe and Asia, an unsettling shadow looms, and it's not just the rain ruining. My toga. Procopius, the Byzantine historian, typically reserved in his expressions, noted that the sun emitted its light, yet it lacked brightness. That's a way of saying this is profoundly disturbing, and we're all facing an inevitable fate. Other narrators speak of a parched mist that enveloped the realm. Neither smoke nor mist, but rather an odd, persistent grayness that clung to the air, stubbornly refusing to dissipate. It remained steadfast against the gusts, untouched by the falling rain. It lingered in the air, as if the very planet were attempting to convey a subtle, unspoken warning, yet no one seemed to notice. The outcome? A year that danced to its own rhythm. The crops, alas, did not reach their full bloom. The trees ceased their ascent towards the sky. In graceful arcs, the birds took to the skies, their journey a dance of migration. And in their quest for understanding, humans endeavored to unravel the mystery. Whispers echoed through the air, suggesting it was a reckoning from the heavens. Some pointed fingers at dark magic, celestial events, or the misdeeds of those living nearby. There was a fellow who likely pointed the finger at a goat. Though the annals of time may not have etched his name into their pages, his presence lingered in the shadows, undeniable and profound. In the midst of it all, the everyday folk, the villagers, the farmers, the weary scribes endured the trials of life as best they could. The absence of sunlight brought with it a chill in the air, a scarcity of sustenance, a haze of uncertainty, and an overwhelming sense of bewilderment about how long this celestial jest would continue to unfold. 536 began quietly, without a dramatic entrance. It began in quietude, beneath an unusual sky, with an unsettling sense of foreboding, and the undeniable impression that something was amiss. And here's the twist. It was merely the beginning. The sun has risen, though it seems to be holding back, not fully engaging in the day's unfolding tale. As the clock strikes 5:36, eyes around the globe turn skyward, seeking answers from the vast expanse above, as if it holds secrets meant just for them. What was once a dependable, radiant sun, casting its mildly judgmental gaze upon the world, has now transformed into a feeble, lackluster disk, as if it's decided to take a day off from its duties. The flicker of a dying candle offers more warmth and enthusiasm than this. Observers hailing from Constantinople, China, Mesopotamia, and Ireland all reported a shared sense of unease. The line between day and night was a mere whisper, a soft blur of light and shadow dot. As the first light of day began to creep in, you would rise, believing it to be the break of dawn. At noon, one might think they had lost their sight entirely. As the sun dipped below the horizon, one might find it quite the challenge to pinpoint the exact moment of its descent. The sun meandered away, slipping into the horizon as if it were lost in a gentle dialogue. Modern authors depict the sun as having a bluish hue, casting no shadows. Ah, if you find yourself pondering the nature of a sun that casts no shadows, you're echoing the thoughts of those anxious souls from the 6th century. Just moments before, they succumbed to their fears and let panic seep into their stew bowls. In China, it was said that the stars shone brightly even in the daylight. Allow that to resonate within you. As you nurture your rice fields, you glance upward and behold the shimmering constellations above. That doesn't quite feel like weather. Behold the sky gently renewing itself. And it wasn't merely dim. It was also wrapped in a chilling embrace. As the sunlight was obscured by an enigmatic and bothersome presence. The temperatures plummeted not in a cozy, comforting manner reminiscent of hot cocoa, but rather in a way that left your spring crops bewildered, believing it was January, while your toes ceased to function as they should. It is important to recognize that the individuals of 536 were entirely unaware of the principles of atmospheric science. Unbeknownst to them, a volcano was stirring in the distance, its presence felt even from thousands of miles away. All they understood was that the sun had ceased to fulfill its duty, when your sustenance, comfort, and very desire to thrive hinge upon that employment, it transforms into a true predicament. It was only natural for people to seek out explanations. The faithful perceived a celestial retribution. The astrologers pointed fingers at the foreboding dance of the planets above. Local leaders likely pointed fingers at outsiders, ominous signs. And that peculiar fellow in the village, who always had an air of mystery about him. Regardless of the reasoning, a single truth stood out. The sun had ceased its efforts. And when the protagonist of the heavens decides to step back, you can sense that the unfolding events are poised to take a turn for the worse. In the year 536, a curious awakening began among the people, as they came to understand that it was not merely the sun playing tricks on them. The whole ambience had chosen to behave strangely. From every corner of the globe, whispers emerged of an extraordinary occurrence. A persistent arid mist that danced in now, ways unlike any ordinary climate. It was not mist. The mist begins to lift. It was not smoke. The scent of smoke wafts through the air, hinting at a blaze somewhere nearby. This fog simply existed, like an elusive, shadowy presence drifting through the air, obscuring clarity and dampening spirits in equal measure. Procopius, the somber chronicler of Byzantine tales, painted a picture of the sun casting light devoid of brilliance, asserting that a spectral fog lingered over the realm for an entire year. Imagine a whole year spent in shadows, where the sky remains a distant memory. Time slips through your fingers, and the seasons blend into an endless haze. One might ponder if this is the new reality, a life stripped of its vibrant markers. In the east, tails emerged of yellow dust cascading from the heavens, accompanied by the curious phenomena of summer snow, adding an extra layer of surreal wonder to the narrative. Picture this. It's July, and you awaken to a scene that defies all expectations. Your crops, usually vibrant and thriving, are blanketed in frost, while your chickens wander about, utterly bewildered by the unexpected chill. The Tailies of Ireland recount a time when bread became scarce, a poetic expression for widespread hunger. Resonating deeply with the Irish spirit, it's a sign of the times when even the humble loaf turns its back on you. Ah, but where did this mysterious fog arise from? It has come to our understanding that what we witnessed was likely the result of a volcanic eruption, or perhaps even a series of them. Imagine it as nature's spirited attempt at extinguishing birthday candles, overflowing with excitement and inadvertently spoiling the whole celebration. High above, ash and sulfate aerosols were propelled into the stratosphere, lingering for months. They danced in the sunlight, casting reflections that shielded the earth from warmth, ensuring that your winter jacket became a staple of style throughout the year. Indeed, the inhabitants of the 6th century were blissfully unaware of any of this. All they understood was that the realm had turned shadowy, frigid, and tinged with an unsettling curse. The crops refused to flourish. The rivers came to a gentle halt. Whole swaths of land fell silent as the skies withheld their precious gift of rain. Animals started to perish, or simply wandered into the mist, consumed by an overwhelming sense of despair, perhaps, and just. As folks began to settle into this strange new reality, nature chose to add a twist by unleashing a bonus pandemic. What could be more captivating than a fog that lingers endlessly? A curse that trails behind it. At long last, after ages of turmoil and despair, the light of science emerged on the horizon. Though it arrived after the expected time, it proved to be quite beneficial. With the tools of their trade ice cores and radiocarbon dating historians and climate scientists pondered the mystery. What caused the sky to take on a dark, Gothic hue in the year 536? The response? Once upon a time, in the heart of the earth, there lay mighty mountains that breathed fire and ash. These colossal giants, known as volcanoes, held secrets of creation and destruction within their fiery cores. Each eruption told a tale of power, beauty, and the relentless forces of nature, captivating all who dared to listen. Specifically, a grand one, perhaps 2 or even 3, for when the earth unleashes its fury, it does so with great fervor. The primary suspect in this unfolding tale is a volcanic eruption in Iceland. Colossal one. Picture the earth expressing its weariness, then forcefully releasing billions of tons of ash into the stratosphere. The ash lingers like an unwelcome companion, obscuring the sun's warm embrace and sending the world's temperature spiraling downward. In the depths of Greenland's ice cores, a striking surge of sulfur emerges from that year, revealing a tale of environmental change etched in time. Essentially, a preserved record demonstrating that the Earth experienced a dramatic eruption. The ice of Antarctica weaves a tale of its own, remarkable in its solitude, having been untouched and distant, a mere 10,000 miles away. But this is where the tale takes a thrilling turn. Perhaps the initial eruption was not a solitary event. It appears that a second eruption took place in 540, and perhaps another one occurred in 547. Indeed, this was not merely a fleeting calamity. It was a trilogy, and it lacked joy. The Volcanoes of Doom, Parts 1, 2, and 3, now enriched with prolonged hunger sequences and an added layer of plague intrigue. From the depths of the earth, ash and sulfate aerosols emerged, swirling into the atmosphere and journeying across the globe. They danced with sunlight, casting shadows that whispered of cooler days ahead as they gently lowered the temperatures of our world. Imagine it as the planet's method of enveloping itself in an ultra-protective shield, akin to a thick layer of SPF 5000, yet devoid of that familiar sunscreen scent. In lands such as Mesopotamia, this heralded the downfall of bountiful harvests and the unraveling of economies. In China, the summer brings an unexpected blanket of snow. In Europe, grain prices soared to unprecedented heights, and not in the calm, calculated manner of the stock market. More in the manner of, your neighbor has just parted with his goat in exchange for a sack of stale oats. And let it be known, in the year 536, the concept of a volcano was a mystery to all. They failed to link the faint sun to a distant mountain, grappling with its own existential turmoil thousands of miles away. They gazed upward, witnessing the eternal dusk, and concluded that the divine was displeased. Not to be honest, that's exactly how it felt. In those ancient times, when the mysteries of the universe were shrouded in darkness, the only witnesses were frightened priests and anxious farmers, gazing up at skies that seemed to have lost their spark, as if the world itself had slipped into a deep slumber. Once upon a time, the sun decided to take a break, leaving the sky in a state of disarray, as if it were crying out for help. Seasons danced in confusion, and the world was left wondering what time of year it truly was. Welcome to 536, where the chill of hypothermia adds an unexpected twist to the tale. Thanks to our ash-spewing volcanic antagonists, Earth plunged into what scientists now refer to as a volcanic winter. That sounds intriguing, until the realization dawns that it was not merely a figure of speech in a time long past. The world experienced a chilling shift, as temperatures plummeted by as much as 2.5 degrees Celsius. Imagine, if you will, a scenario where the very essence of sustenance vanished, leaving communities grappling with the stark reality of a lost harvest. Now, if that doesn't strike a chord with your comfortably warm ears, imagine cultivating crops in a realm where summer chills you more than the silence of your ex's text replies. The wheat, barley, and grapes lay there in the soil, as if to say, not today. This was no fleeting chill, my friend. Across the globe, from the lush landscapes of Ireland to the rugged terrains of Scandinavia, the vast expanses of North America, and the diverse regions of Asia, tree ring data reveals a tale of stunted growth that resonates universally. The trees stood, not thriving, but merely clinging to existence, just barely and if the trees were in distress, one can only ponder the implications for those who relied on their bounty for sustenance. The frosts came sooner, the snow held on tighter, and spring transformed. And what of the farmers? Farmers found themselves in a charade, feigning expertise as they witnessed their fields succumb to failure, reminiscent of ill-fated medieval group endeavors. In China, chronicles recount the descent of yellow dust, drifting down like delicate snowflakes in Korea. Tales were spun of summer frosts that danced upon the land. In Europe, summer seemed to have forgotten its invitation, or perhaps it arrived in a haze, only to stumble out before the festivities truly began. In the midst of it all, the animals were proving to be quite uncooperative. The herds dwindled, with some perishing, others embarking on journeys to new lands, and a few choosing not to reproduce, which is understandable. What unfolded was a tempest of withering fields, famished villages, and an escalating dread that the world was drawing to a close, gradually, and under a shroud of somber shadows. It wasn't merely the chill that gripped the air. It was the bewilderment, the uncertainty, the wild caprice of the changing seasons. Once upon a time, there were calendars, festivals, and planting schedules that danced through the lives of the people. But now, they had lost their rhythm and meaning. In April, you may sow your seeds, only to witness the cruel hand of frost extinguish all hope in May. As June arrives, you find yourself savoring a concoction of pine bark stew, all the while imagining it to be a delightful soup. Indeed, the world embraced a chill. Yet the true unease lay in the haunting thought that the warmth might never grace us again. As the sun slipped away and the chill of the evening settled in, it became evident that something else was drawing its last breath as well. Hope and grain, but predominantly grain. In a time long before the clamor of industry, where the rhythm of life revolved around the toil of farmers, the bounty of their fields, and the desperate acts of those who sought to take what was not theirs. A poor harvest was not merely a disappointment. It was a profound upheaval of existence itself. In the years of 5 and 36, it was not merely a single poor harvest. It was a relentless series, one following the other, until the memory of full stomachs faded into oblivion. The crops were doomed from the start. As the sun hung low in the sky, casting a muted glow reminiscent of a bygone era, the chill of the air crept in, much like an unwelcome guest. The fields, once vibrant and full of life, across Europe and Asia seemed to withdraw, refusing to yield their bounty any longer. The barley made its timid debut, just a whisper of green, breaking through the earth's embrace. The wheat surrendered midway through its journey. Ah, the humble grape, let it go. Your wine transformed into sorrow, sealed away with a cork dot in the land of Ireland. The chronicles speak of a time when bread met its downfall. A lyrical expression, indeed, yet in truth, that is hunger. Without bread, there was nothing to eat. Without sustenance, vitality wanes. Without energy, the fields lay untouched, with no peasants to cultivate the earth. And then, in an instant, the entire system crumbled like a precariously piled cart of hay. China's performance was not significantly improved. In the era of the Northern Wei dynasty, an early frost descended, causing the harvests to wither away. The rice paddies lay still, encased in a blanket of frost. The fields lay transformed into nothing but barren muck. And instead of flourishing communities, you found aimless wanderers, desperately gnawing on whatever roots remained from the week before. In the realms where they still lingered, grain prices ascended to new heights. In the heart of Constantinople, souls bartered their final treasures for mere morsels of stale bread. In Britain, whispers of a dwindling population can be heard in the winds of change. In India, the rhythm of the monsoon cycles faced destruction. In Ethiopia, the royal inscriptions came to an unexpected halt, a development that rarely bodes well. The truly harsh twist? This was not a swift calamity. It unfolded slowly. As the year 537 unfolded, the earth remained obstinately unyielding. It whispered promises of hope, gently nudging you to believe. On a gentle day, a tender sprout emerges, only to be met with a harsh frost by dawn's light. What unfolded was a farming community, ensnared in a cycle of hopeful beginnings and disheartening conclusions. Time and time again, in the days of yore, the farmers of the medieval era spoke of this with a special term: heavenly retribution. In the realm of contemporary science, it is referred to as climate disruption brought forth by volcanic activity. Yet, the humble folk below simply named it as their hearts perceived it. In a realm where the chill stretches endlessly, a winter lingers, its hunger palpable in the air. Should you have wished that this worldwide calamity was confined to just one unfortunate part of the globe, prepare to reconsider. The year 536 had no favorites. It was a calamity that spared no one. Once upon a time in China, all was well, until, out of nowhere, summer snow began to fall. Indeed, that is a true tale that unfolded. In the annals of the Northern Wei dynasty, court records tell of peculiar weather phenomena: frost gracing the earth in the heart of summer, and crops failing in such abundance that the people began to ponder if the heavens had turned their gaze away from the world below. It was more than mere snow that fell. Amidst the swirling dust storms, the relentless droughts, and the haunting yellow mist, a tale unfolds. In essence, the wonders of nature unleashed its most spectacular display upon northern Asia. The emperor endeavored to send forth his offerings to the heavens above. The skies remained silent. Perhaps she vanished without a trace. The outcome? In the depths of hunger. In the grip of hunger. Uprisings. The dynasty fell soon after. For nothing erodes faith in leadership quite like the chill of hunger felt under one's reign. In a distant land, where the emerald hills roll and the mist dances, the monks were diligently etching somber reflections into their ancient records. Events such as the collapse of bread from the 12th year to the 15th, which, in the language of medieval monks, resembles the act of shouting into a cushion. That phrase, failure of bread, resonates with a certain lyrical quality, that it also signifies the absence of wheat, oats, and porridge. For the Irish of that era, it signified that they were merely one unfortunate harvest away from subsisting on moss and whatever creatures couldn't escape quickly enough. A great hunger swept through the communities. Animals met their untimely end, either succumbing to fate or becoming sustenance too soon. The flow of trade came to a halt. The villages dwindled in size. And keep in mind, this was a time when food banks were but a dream. Emergency grain shipments were unheard of, and the internet offered no solace with recipes for crafting a meal. From a turnip and a heavy heart, it was as if the very skies conspired against them, their gloom a reflection of the turmoil below. In those fleeting days, the sky hung heavy with a blanket of gray, and the chill seeped into every corner, wrapping the world in a somber embrace. The sun emerged, as if it had grander plans awaiting its attention. And thus, the people found themselves once more seeking solace in faith, weaving tales of superstition, or casting shadows of blame upon their neighbors. Whichever brought the most joy that week, this was no ordinary weather occurrence. It unfolded like a tale of woe, a global catastrophe cloaked in the guise of an endless, dreary day. Across the towering peaks of China and the misty bogs of Ireland, a chilling thought gripped the hearts of people everywhere. What if the world never returns from this? As the chill gripped China and hunger gnawed at Ireland, Scandinavia simply disappeared. Not in a grand, epic tale filled with soaring dragons and blazing fireballs. No, this was far more disquieting. Scandinavia faded quietly into the shadows. As the evening unfolded, the lights gradually faded, casting a soft glow over the gathering, and then, like a whisper in the night, it slipped away, leaving the celebration behind without a farewell. The tale unfolds through the whispers of trees. In particular, the rings of trees. Trees stand as the silent chroniclers of nature, enduring through the ages with a wisdom that transcends the noise of human debate. In the year 536, a curious event unfolded as the trees in Scandinavia ceased to thrive as they once did. Thin bands, no expansion. A complete retreat into the realm of trees. Steeped in melancholy. Their whispers lingered in the air, a clear refusal echoing softly. It was a clear indication that the temperatures had plummeted to such extremes, and the growing seasons had been cut short so drastically, that even the resilient pine trees were struggling to endure. Behold, these are the trees crafted for the shadows of the north. Archaeologists have observed a troubling decrease in human engagement. Silence envelops the settlements. Once vibrant farms now stand deserted. The burial sites reveal a noticeable decline. It feels like whole communities have come together and declared, you know what? Our journey together has reached its conclusion, and ventured into the depths of the woods, perhaps to face hunger, perhaps to escape, perhaps even the fiercest warriors require a moment to escape the weight of their own thoughts. This event unfolded prior to the official dawn of the Viking Age, a detail of great significance. As the Norse began their daring raids on monasteries, striking fear into the hearts of those from Ireland to Byzantium, they had already weathered one of the most severe environmental collapses in history. Some scholars propose that the hardships of this era, the famine, the isolation, the decline in population, played a significant role in molding Norse culture. That dark, inevitable perspective? Tales of frigid, merciless deities and endless winters that stretch on forever? Indeed, that could have leaned more towards factual weather observations rather than mythological tales from the year 536. In a realm where the land was already harsh and unyielding, the abrupt shift in climate did not merely inflict pain, it wrought destruction beyond measure. Herds of livestock would have faced culling. The shelves of food stores lay bare. In the span of just one season, entire family lines could have met their untimely end. Yet, in contrast to other regions, the Scandinavians chose not to document their experiences through grand tales or fervent grievances. They departed, leaving behind a profound stillness, a vacant expanse once thrummed with the lives of its inhabitants. In certain respects, this is even more troubling. It's one thing to encounter tales of suffering in a scribe's lament. It's a different matter entirely to unearth a village and discover that no one ever returned. As the sun danced away from the rest of the world, let us turn our gaze to the Byzantine Empire, in particular, its dazzling heart, Constantinople. Behold Emperor Justinian the Fern, a figure of towering aspirations, armed with a formidable legal code, yet blissfully unaware that he was on the brink of overseeing a decade that would be etched in the annals of history as one of the most calamitous. Before the year 536, Justinian was riding a wave of success. He transformed Roman law into the corpus civilis, weaving together its principles into a cohesive narrative. He had poured resources into grand architectural endeavors, such as the magnificent Hagia Sophia. He traversed the ancient Roman lands as if reliving a cherished memory. Each conquest a step through the echoes of history. Everything seemed to be unfolding in an oddly perfect manner. Then the sky darkened, a chill swept through the air, provisions dwindled, and the empire that never rests was struck by an overwhelming wave of negativity. In the grand tapestry of history, Constantinople found itself in a precarious position, for its lifeblood depended on the bountiful harvests of distant Egypt. When those harvests faltered, the city's mood darkened, casting a shadow over its bustling streets. Once upon a time, the prices of bread began to rise dramatically. In the heart of the capital, famine silently made its way, weaving through the streets like a shadow. And, as if that weren't troubling enough, the ominous darkness above stirred within the hearts of the people a haunting question. Had the end times finally sent their invitation? To complicate the situation further, Justinian, a man who held his divine favor in high regard, found himself in the uncomfortable position of having to justify why it seemed that God had chosen a different path, a scenario far from ideal for the image of the empire. A wave of religious panic surged through the community. Clergy cautioned of impending reckoning. Some citizens embraced a life of simplicity and self-denial, while others cast their blame far and wide, pointing fingers at everyone around them. And what of Justinian? He committed himself further, poured resources into more churches, intensified his prayers, and probably whispered to himself, this wasn't part of the imperial guidebook. Yet the blows continued to fall, for no tale of climate disaster would be truly complete without the unexpected twist of a pandemic. In the year 541, the empire of Justinian faced a devastating blow with the arrival of the first documented outbreak of bubonic plague, a dark chapter known as the Plague of Justinian. It came ashore on a vessel, as is often the way with grim tidings, and in just a handful of years, it claimed the lives of an estimated 25 to 50 million souls, nearly half of the empire's inhabitants. It was Justinian who fell victim to it. Against all odds, he emerged from the shadows of despair. Yet his form had transformed, and so too had the realm he once ruled. Uprisings erupted, military efforts faltered, and the ranks of bureaucrats thinned at an alarming rate. All Justinian desired was to bring back the splendor of Rome. Instead, he found himself as the ruler besieged by shadows, hunger, disease, and the weight of unfulfilled hopes. each calamity striking in a relentless sequence. As if 536 hadn't already claimed the gold medal in suffering, nature chose to unveil a new contender in the arena of despair. Disease. In a chilling introduction, the bubonic plague takes center stage, captivating audiences with its harrowing role as the plague of Justinian. This was no ordinary bout of sniffles, nor a simple case of consuming a questionable mushroom from the past. This was a cataclysmic event, emerging from the depths of our darkest fears, and it struck at the most. An opportune moment, which, to be fair, seemed to echo the overarching theme of the decade. In the year 541, as the sun struggled to regain its warmth, and the people faced the harsh grip of cold and hunger, the plague made its entrance into Constantinople, slipping in through grain shipments with an unsettling ease. Naturally, it unfolded, just as one might expect. There's truly nothing quite like a cargo hold teeming with rats to top off the grand spectacle of an apocalypse. Born from the bacterium Yersinia pestis, this disease wove its tale of devastation, spreading swiftly through the tiny bites of fleas, the scurrying of rats, and the crowded streets of cities that had yet to uncover the secrets of germ theory. In the midst of a dark tale, the signs emerged. A fever that burned like a raging fire, waves of nausea that swept over, lymph nodes that swelled ominously, and an abrupt end that left all in shock. A sentiment that stirs memories of scarcity and longing. Whispers of the past tell of a staggering death toll, with estimates that dance in the shadows of uncertainty. Between 25 and 50 million souls traversed the vast expanse of the Byzantine Empire and its far-reaching territories. Imagine, in the blink of an eye, half the population vanished, leaving behind echoes of their stories in just a few fleeting years. It was a place where the air was thick with the weight of untold tales, and every corner seemed to cradle a secret, as if you might accidentally disturb the resting stories of those long gone. The Emperor Justinian himself fell victim to it and emerged unscathed, yet many of his officials met a far grimmer fate. The wheels of bureaucracy came to a standstill, military endeavors lost their spark, and towns were abandoned quicker than a wine barrel at a bishop's feast. For the common folk, this was no grand scientific affair. This was the divine voice, resonating with urgency. With the sky hanging heavy in shades of gray and the crops failing to thrive. The townsfolk whispered among themselves, convinced that the plague was the grand finale, the ultimate statement. From the heavens above, mass graves were unearthed, priests found their words exhausted, and funeral rites were condensed to a stark acknowledgement. He's gone next. The unpredictability of it all only deepened the turmoil. In a single day, some met their end, while others endured, witnessing the slow disappearance of those they once knew. It was not merely a tragedy. It was a profound injustice, even by the harsh measures of the medieval era. And just like that, the shadowy tale of 536 had spread far and wide, captivating all who heard it. In the year 536, and the tumultuous years that followed, the world was not merely enduring hardship. It was caught in a relentless spiral of despair. The sun had decided to retreat, the crops were in dire straits, and the plague was making itself at home in Europe, much like an unwelcome guest at a celebration. Yet for the everyday individual, the nameless farmer, the devoted monk, or the humble goat-herder, the terror was all too real. Each day unfolded like a relentless challenge, a test of endurance and wit. The dawn has yet to break, and the world remains cloaked in shadows. Not a poetic mist creeping over the shadowy hills. More like, is the sun still casting its light in the shadows? You step out into the biting chill, your gaze falling upon the withered barley stretching before you, and your mind drifts back to last night's meager meal, a solitary turnip and a faint recollection of bread. The livestock are facing their own challenges as well. The hens cease their egg production. The cows appear quite slender. Once upon a time, pigs emerged as treasures of the land, their worth soaring to astonishing heights, while their presence grew increasingly elusive. A neighbor vanished last week, and an uncomfortable hush falls over the room whenever stew is brought up. The scarcity of food stretched beyond local borders, casting a shadow across the entire continent. In a world turned upside down, the markets fell, and grain emerged as the new currency of survival. Imagine, if you will, a solitary carrot in your possession, and without the presence of children, you would find yourself in the grand role of a feudal overlord. In the grand city of Constantinople, the prices climbed to dizzying heights, leaving even the nobles to taste the unfamiliar pangs of hunger. In distant hamlets, the situation was dire. The creeping shadow of starvation did not descend in a single moment. It approached with a deliberate pace, harsh and unyielding, showing no regard for justice. And then came the profound psychological impact. In the absence of sunlight to delineate the passage of days, time slipped into a haze, its boundaries blurred and indistinct. Could it be the dawn of a new day? Ah, the evening has arrived. Ah, Wednesday, the midpoint of our journey through the week where stories unfold and new adventures await. No one truly understood. They toiled on, their hearts filled with prayers and dreams, yearning for the day when the sky would finally offer its remorse. Alas, it did not unfold as one might have hoped. The ministers called for a return to righteousness. In a time of plenty, the nobles kept their treasures close, hoarding food as if it were the very essence of life itself. And what of the everyday people? They gazed at the overcast heavens, pondering whether this was the new reality of existence. A lengthy, frigid chapter shrouded in shadows and despair, occasionally interrupted by the scurrying of a rat. Hope transformed into a rare treasure. Many souls wandered, each one hoping to evade the shadow of the next farewell. Indeed, if you have navigated the treacherous waters of crop failure, plague, biting cold, and the ever-looming shadow of existential dread, then you deserve a hearty round of applause. You had earned the title of survivor, a term that in 536 carried the weight of malnourishment, trauma, and a lingering hope as you gazed into the distance, searching for a sun that had long since vanished. In the wake of relentless famine, devastating plague, and a haunting eternal twilight, humanity, as it often does in times of great adversity, began to rise and adapt, weaving its tale of resilience and survival. Disintegrate gracefully, while proclaiming that all is well. The experience transcended mere hunger. The social fabric, once a fine tapestry, now resembled burlap, and it started to unravel. As the structures of power crumbled and the systems of work fell apart. Individuals began to act not as a united community, but rather as players in a grim contest for survival. In the midst of chaos, local governments, those that had not succumbed to the plague or fled in fear, fought valiantly to uphold a semblance of order. The worth of coinage diminished. The pathways of commerce have withered away. And what of justice? Imagine a world where the act of stealing a loaf of bread could lead you down two very different paths, one filled with the weighty words of a sermon, and the other with the sharp edge of a sword, all hinging on the last meal of the local magistrate. The aristocracy emerged from this tale with tarnished reputations. A great many gathered provisions. Some attempted to increase taxes, indeed, amidst a famine, a move that could be seen as either courageous or reckless, depending on the balance of pitchforks held by the peasants. Some abandoned their grand estates, leaving the serfs to navigate the tumultuous waters of uncertainty alone. Alas, the outcome was not as one might hope. Religious institutions emerged as both a refuge and a target for blame. Amidst the plight of the starving masses, certain priests urged them to deepen their repentance. Others stepped forward, offering the little they could spare. And then, amidst the unfolding events, there emerged a group that seized the moment to declare the end of days and establish a new community deep within the woods. The lines of right and wrong began to fade away. In the shadows, theft began to weave its way into the fabric of everyday life. Chaos erupted. In the heart of the village, when one possessed food, they found themselves at the center of attention, basking in newfound popularity, yet gripped by an unsettling anxiety. And keep in mind, there was no central news, no plague tracker app, no trustworthy updates from far-off cities. Whispers of celestial retribution, tales of malevolent spirits, the promise of sunlight breaking through in far-off realms, or accounts of whole territories erased from existence. As the masses abandoned their cities, villages faded into memory, and vast stretches of land became empty shells. With no souls remaining to tend to the roads, cultivate the fields, or honor the temples, the very fabric of the landscape started to come undone. The fall of civilization was not marked by flames and triumph. It faded softly, as if a gentle hand were wiping away the colors of a cherished canvas with a damp cloth. The chroniclers of that era had shifted their focus away from the realm of politics. They wove tales of how the sky remained stubbornly gray, refusing to don its azure cloak. To sum it up, the world carried on as it always has. It simply wandered off from its intended path. In time, following years steeped in loss, shadows, and what seemed like an intricate cosmic chest, the world started to heal. Not with a grand explosion, not with the golden rays piercing through the clouds in a dramatic flourish. Absolutely not. It was akin to a weary exhale, accompanied by fleeting glimpses of sunlight that seemed to offer a glimmer of hope rather than a jest of fate. As the early 540s unfolded, the enigmatic ash veil started to lift, revealing the world beneath. The sun emerged once more, as if it had just returned from a mysterious getaway, casting its light hesitantly, uncertain of its warm welcome. Life began to stir in the fields once more, as the crops slowly emerged from the earth. Not in a grand way, of course, but they did indeed flourish. With a renewed sense of hope, farmers began to plant their seeds, and when a hint of green emerged from the soil, their reaction was not one of despair, but rather a gentle disbelief. In the bustling heart of Constantinople, the tides of grain prices have finally found their calm. Once revered as a sacred artifact, bread has returned to its humble role as sustenance. The empire staggered onward, mending the gaps in its economy while feigning that all had been orchestrated from the start. In the heart of rural villages, fresh generations emerged, unaware of the sunless years that had come before them and the tales of those who had endured. They bore the marks of time, their faces telling tales of storms weathered and meals missed. The echoes of trauma resonated through the culture, leaving an indelible mark. Some scholars suggest that the grim atmosphere of later medieval apocalyptic literature can be traced back to these tumultuous years. After experiencing famine, plague, social upheaval, and an unrelenting fog, it becomes quite the challenge to craft joyful verses celebrating the arrival of spring once more. The numbers of people throughout Europe and Asia continued to be notably diminished. Whole communities had disappeared, and the process of restoration extended far beyond mere structures. It was a journey of rediscovering the essence of humanity, shedding the shadows of cold, hungry specters. And even as life settled back into its familiar rhythm, individuals moved through their days with a lingering sense of trepidation, as if the world itself might snuff out the sun once more, just to witness the unfolding drama. The Byzantine Empire rose once more, finding its footing amidst the chaos. The dynasties of China wove a tapestry of change and resilience. From the shadows of history, Scandinavia rose once more, and soon those intrepid Norsemen would set forth, destined to become a challenge for all who crossed their path. Yet, amidst it all, there lingered a shared, hushed sense of relief that perhaps, just perhaps, the darkest days were behind them. Throughout the annals of time, the year 536 stands as a perplexing chapter in the tale of calamity. Long ago, the scribes of yore understood the depths of its horror. In the shadowy corners of medieval chronicles, whispers of darkness and famine echoed, yet the true reason for the sun's mysterious departure from humanity remained elusive. Speculations ranged from divine wrath to the fanciful notion of demons devouring the very sky itself. It was only in the 20th century when humankind discovered the art of drilling into ice rather than merely succumbing to its depths that the enigma began to unravel. Behold the ice cores, those long cylinders of ancient frozen layers extracted from the depths of Greenland and Antarctica, akin to the Earth's quietly resentful memory, sticks holding secrets of ages past. Amidst those layers, in the year 536 A.D., a dramatic surge in sulfur and ash emerged, followed by two more significant spikes in 540 and 547. These events led scientists to uncover a revelation that the medieval world had never anticipated. Mountains of fire and ash, enormous ones, most likely several. Initially, the researchers believed they were witnessing a significant eruption in Iceland. Next, they turned their attention to the majestic volcanoes of Central America. Next, we journey to Indonesia, or perhaps the vast expanse of Alaska. In essence, the planet let out a great cough, and the scholars continued to debate which of its lungs produced the sound. Yet, the outcome remained unchanged. Ash surged into the stratosphere, unfurling its dark veil across the world, catching the sunlight and casting a chill that lingered for years. The world softly hushed, as if the sun had gently drawn its curtains, leaving us to wander in the twilight of forgotten moments. This revelation transformed our perception of climate disasters. It wasn't a matter of divine retribution. Rather, it was the whims of geophysics playing out at the most unfortunate moment. What's truly captivating is the way modern science not only unraveled a mystery, but also reshaped the very fabric of history. In an unexpected twist, the famines, plagues, and collapses of the 6th century revealed themselves to be interconnected threads in a larger tapestry of history. They shared an unbreakable bond. A colossal natural occurrence, or perhaps a trio in succession, set off a chain of anguish that stretched across the globe, even more thought-provoking. Once more, it may unfold. Volcanoes remain indifferent to your Wi-Fi connections or the intricacies of your global supply chains. They'll replicate the events of 536, shrouding the sun and reveling in our chaos. Yet, at last, we would grasp the reason behind the demise of our tomatoes. Yet, understanding the reason does not alter the experiences that individuals endured. In their world, the sky dimmed, provisions dwindled, and uncertainty reigned supreme. It took a remarkable span of 1,500 years for science to finally declare, without a doubt, that it was indeed the volcano. Throughout the annals of time, there have been years that cast long shadows. Numerous indeed. In the year 1347, the ominous shadow of the Black Death loomed over Europe, while 1914 heralded the dawn of a world war. And then came 2020. Perhaps it's best to leave that topic untouched. Yet 536 A.D. remains etched in the annals of history as one of the most chilling chapters in this saga of human suffering. It was not merely unfortunate. It was a tale of utter despair, a tale of calamity spanning years, served with an extra helping of despair. What renders 536 so eerie is not merely the volcanic winter, the famine, the plague, or the population decline. It is the convergence of these events that unfolds in a world steeped in ancient beliefs and fragile foundations, teetering on the edge of the unknown. Picture, enduring a full year shrouded in constant dusk. grappling with scarce provisions, and listening to profound reflections on existence. Picture this. Year 2 arrives, bringing with it a fiery volcanic eruption, along with a gentle nudge that the sun remains a distant dream. Picture this. The lesser-known, yet equally impudent relative of the Black Death arrives at your city gate in the 5th year and casually declares, "Hello, I reside here now." In those days, the truth eluded the minds of the people. In their world, the notion of climate upheaval was foreign. The idea of volcanoes erupting from distant lands was beyond their grasp, and the thought of listening to podcasts on the intricacies of disease spread was utterly unimaginable. What they beheld was a realm that had abruptly lost its coherence. And perhaps that's the essence that lingers in our minds. Even in this age of satellites, scientists, and constant news updates, there remains an unsettling mystery about a year, when the sky darkened, leaving everyone in the dark about the reason. It whispers to us that nature exists beyond the bounds of reason. The planet has a way of unleashing its fury, capable of hurling us back to the days of gathering firewood and relying on mere speculation. And still, the spirit of the people persevered. Through trials and tribulations, they endured hardship, faced hunger, laid their dear ones to rest, and persevered onward, not due to their possession of answers, but rather because there was truly no alternative. Indeed, 536 stands out as a truly grim chapter in history, and it hung in the air, a lingering echo of the cosmos, for decades, yet it unfolds as a tale of endurance. In the stillness of the harsh, unyielding cold, a tale of resilience unfolds, marked by an unwavering spirit against the biting chill of existence. Perhaps that is what renders it so captivating, for beneath the surface there lies a shared understanding that even if the sun were to vanish by dawn, we would continue our debates over the cost of bread, point fingers at those in power, and concoct a stew from the remnants, just as they once did. The dawn of the 12th century unfolded not with a resounding roar, but rather with a gentle murmur, hinting at the tales yet to be woven in the fabric of time. A soft murmur of stone blocks being drawn by oxen, accompanied by the haunting chants. Resonating from the dusty construction yards adjacent to the weathered Romanesque churches, a great tale was unfolding. Throughout France, England, the Holy Roman Empire, and even the far reaches of Spain, cathedrals started their ascent toward the heavens. But what is the reason behind it? Europe was undergoing a transformation dot-swift. The cities were expanding, their boundaries stretching ever wider. The tides of trade were rising once more, and the church, you see, had a desire to put on a grand display. It had to assert its dominance, making it clear who held the reins. And what more captivating way to achieve that than by erecting the most breathtaking, fearfully colossal structures anyone had ever laid eyes upon? These were not mere enhancements. This was a fierce contest of architectural prowess. In a realm where towns vied for glory, their battles were not fought with swords, but with the very essence of stone itself. In a realm where one city erected a church with a grand 50-foot nave, the next sought to outdo its predecessor, dreaming of a structure twice as long, adorned with an abundance of stained glass, soaring towers, and miraculous tailies etched in. Limestone. The bishops sought to etch their legacy into the very fabric of stone. Rulers sought to inspire awe among the populace through the grandeur of their buildings, reflecting a celestial mandate. What about the everyday individuals? They were merely seeking a passage to the celestial realm, just a single coin, a singular journey of devotion, one grueling labor shift after another. And yet none of this would have come to fruition if someone hadn't discovered the secret to defying gravity. Step into the realm of the Gothic style. This fresh perspective, termed conventional, wisdom about church design on its head. Gone are the days of heavy, imposing barriers. No more small panes that allow just a sliver of light to whisper of the world outside. Gothic architecture welcomed the embrace of air and light. It yearned for the divine gaze to penetrate within, while allowing you to gaze outward. Pointed arches, ribbed vaults, and those wondrous flying buttresses, everything revolved around ascending, inviting in greater illumination, and evoking a sense of profound smallness in the presence of the sacred. What began as humble trials at St. Denis in Seine would soon erupt into a grand spectacle. For the next 4 centuries, Europe would find itself immersed in a whirlwind of stone cutting, scaffold climbing, and stained glass assembling fervor. And the most astonishing twist, many of these grand cathedrals were crafted over the span of centuries. Countless lives would come and go, each one a chapter in the tale, before the last spire found its place in the grand narrative. This was a tale of creation. It was belief, brought to life, each soaring support a testament to devotion. Behind every cathedral lay more than mere divine inspiration. It was a legion of brilliant minds, cloaked in the dust of their labor. And there, leading that mighty army, the skilled craftsman of stone, neither a priest nor a noble, but rather a passionate enthusiast of stone, armed with a compass, a chisel, and a daring spirit. These were the legends of the Middle Ages, though. Their attire was far from leather. They donned linen, veiled in a fine layer of limestone dust. Master builders were more than mere contractors. They were visionaries, creators, and occasionally, charismatic figures who drew others into their orbit. For when you find yourself requesting humble folk to lift massive stones high into the sky, with nothing but ropes and wooden pulleys, possessing a certain charm is essential, or at the very least, a compelling blueprint. But wait for the unexpected turn. Many of these men hailed from humble beginnings. They embarked on their journey through the guild, starting as humble apprentices, diligently sweeping floors and fetching tools. Then they transformed into wanderers, moving from place to place, cathedral to cathedral, collecting secrets as if they were rare treasures. It takes years of trials and tribulations, perhaps even a few sacrifices along the way, before one can earn the esteemed title of master. And what of the numbers? Frightening. In an age devoid of calculators and contemporary geometry textbooks, these remarkable builders ingeniously unraveled the secrets of weight distribution. They managed to channel the immense weight from ceilings soaring as high as a redwood tree, gracefully across vaults, down sturdy columns, and out through the elegant embrace of flying buttresses. Should they misstep, whole segments might crumble, and frequently did. In Beauvais, the ground gave way. In Lincoln, structures crumbled. And even in Cologne, sections fell into disarray. Every calamity unfolded as a tale, imparting wisdom for the journey ahead. Yet amidst each setback, a wonder emerged. The meticulous craftsmanship found in Reims and Amiens Cathedral would surely leave contemporary engineers in awe. With a keen eye and simple tools like strings and chalk, these men crafted load-bearing wonders that have withstood the test of time, standing tall for centuries. In a whirlwind of creativity and craftsmanship, they collaborated with stone cutters, woodworkers, glaziers, and laborers, embarking on what could only be described as the most tumultuous group project of the century. They didn't merely create blueprints. They orchestrated entire realms of construction. At times, they departed this world before their grand vision could be fully realized, leaving their successors to ponder the mysteries behind those peculiar triple arches that adorned the nave. Gothic cathedrals were not merely grand structures. They pulsed with life, each surface rich with tales, symbols, saints, monsters, and lessons waiting to be uncovered. If you found yourself unable to decipher Latin, fear not, for the stone would share its tale with you. Let us embark on a journey through the portals. These were not mere doors. They were celestial sentinels. Picture yourself stepping into a church, where the gaze of saints, apostles, and the Last Judgment meets you. intricately carved into arch after arch, each telling a tale of its own. At the heart of it all, a figure of calmness, yet discerning souls condemned to the abyss, pulled down by fiendish hands, side by side with traders and artisans of bread. A quiet whisper, fulfill your obligation or face the consequences. And those stone sentinels, these were not merely medieval waterspouts. They served as formidable guardians of faith, designed to instill fear in malevolent spirits, and perhaps even in a few misbehaving congregants. From the heights above, grotesques bared their twisted visages, forever caught in a dance of torment or mirth. In the realm of imagination, there existed beings of all kinds, demons lurking in the shadows, hybrids that roamed the earth, dogs adorned with human visages, and bishops soaring through the skies with majestic wings. Each cathedral bore a bestiary, etched into its very essence. Within, the columns transformed into towering groves of meaning, each one a tale waiting to be told. Atop the pillars, capitals bore miniature tales, Cain striking down Abel, a tipsy Noah revealing himself to his sons, or monks engaged in a peculiar battle with snails' curiosity piqued. But best left unexplained, the choir stalls were even more mischievous. Concealed within the timber were intricate carvings depicting gassy peasants, lecherous monks, and creatures engaged in decidedly irreverent antics. Yet it was not merely a tale of humor and despair. The stonework unfolded like a sacred tome, each chiseled detail telling a tale in 3 dimensions. From the dawn of creation to the profound passion of Christ, from the reigns of ancient kings to the tales of lesser-known saints, each moment unfolds a lesson waiting to be discovered. These cathedrals stood as grand narratives of faith for those who could not read, their stone facades telling monumental tales of devotion and belief. And what of the artisans? In the shadows, they toiled away, hidden from the eyes of the world. Many chose to remain anonymous, seeking not the spotlight, but a deeper belief, though now and then a signature would find its way onto the page. A small reflection of oneself, or perhaps a chiseled jab directed at a competitor, positioned 2 tiers beneath. The stone whispered tales, yet it also functioned as a tool of persuasion. Rulers, clergy, and influential benefactors frequently insisted that their likenesses be depicted alongside those of the saints. Political adversaries transformed into fiends. Those who opposed the church were condemned to an everlasting torment, trapped in the vivid depictions of their own fiery demise. As you enter the grand Gothic cathedral, the initial sensation, after your neck begins to protest from gazing upward, is the enchanting light that dances through the stained glass. Not merely sunlight, but a spectrum of vibrant hues, a celestial glow, illumination that wove tales and transported you to a realm beyond your own. Step into the realm of stained glass. Within the depths of the Gothic imagination, light transcended mere illumination. It embodied a profound theology. In the beginning, there was a radiant presence, a brilliance that illuminated all existence. And the cathedral was meant to be a glimpse of paradise on earth, so naturally it required windows that shimmered with divine light. The windows loomed large, a striking contrast to their Romanesque forebears. And they weren't merely adornments. They were grand narratives captured in glass. The magnificent rose windows of Chartres and Notre Dame tell tales of artistry and devotion, each pane a vibrant chapter in the grand narrative of these historic cathedrals. They are essentially vibrant, circular tales waiting to be explored. In one vivid panel, the world bursts into existence, while another captures the majestic Noah's Ark, and a vibrant kaleidoscope of red and blue weaves together a complete genealogy of Christ. Each pane whispered a tale. Red symbolized the essence of sacrifice and the spirit of the fallen, while blue represented the purity of the Virgin Mary. Gold shone with the brilliance of divine illumination. and green echoed the promise of renewal and new beginnings. Every piece was meticulously hand-cut, adorned with delicate strokes of iron oxide, and then transformed in the fiery embrace of the kiln. The outcome? Crystal that could endure through the ages. These were not individual endeavors either. Artisans of stained glass collaborated in harmonious teams. Artisans, hue masters, brush wielders, glass artisans, all harmonized like a grand cinematic production from a bygone era. What about the funding? Frequently gathered from the collective. Local guilds would sponsor entire windows, occasionally slipping in a self-serving panel at the bottom. This window, a generous gift from the fishmongers, may their herring forever remain fresh. What impact does it have on those who gather in reverence? Utter amazement. Picture yourself as a humble villager, where the highlight of your revolves around the grand event of the pig's slaughter. As you step into Chartres, you are greeted by an explosion of light, with walls adorned in vibrant hues, saints radiating in ruby and sapphire, their halos shining with a brilliance that rivals the sun. It felt as though one had crossed the threshold into a realm of divine promise. Yet, beneath the surface, there lay a depth beyond mere beauty. The windows spoke with fervor. In a vivid tapestry of sequenced panels, the life of Christ unfolds before your eyes, where virtues clash with vices, and the intricate dance of allegories, depicting sin and redemption, plays out, all conveyed without a single word needing to be read. As the sun journeyed across the sky, the atmosphere shifted with it. The dawn unveiled a tapestry of golden warmth, while the midday sun ignited the nave with a sacred blaze. As twilight descended, the windows glimmered faintly, akin to fading embers, serving as a poignant reminder that light, much like existence, is ephemeral. To the common folk of the medieval village, flying buttresses must have appeared as if conjured by some arcane sorcery of architecture. Massive stone arms reached out from the cathedral's walls, linked to piers that seemed to float, never quite touching the grand structure. Chaos and confusion swirl around like a tempest, leaving reason in disarray. Yet, to the master builders, these peculiar appendages were the hidden force behind the Gothic revolution. Once upon a time, a challenge arose that needed to be addressed. Gothic. Cathedrals soared to incredible heights, reaching towards the heavens with an almost otherworldly presence. Their ceilings soared to heights of 100 feet or beyond. And those majestic, ribbed vaults? They exerted immense force, sending the weight sprawling outward, not merely pressing it down. Without your backing for that lateral force, your grand church would soon transform into a costly heap of debris. Behold the flying buttress, a clever architectural trick, in a departure from the sturdy, imposing walls characteristic of Romanesque churches. Gothic architects envisioned structures adorned with expansive windows that invited light and air into their sacred spaces. And since windows are essentially openings in the architecture, something else was required to support the structure. But there was more to the tale. The flying buttress, a magnificent external arch that gracefully embraced the outward force of the ceiling, guiding it with care to a distant pier where it could rest safely. The outcome? The interior walls might be delicate, inviting, and adorned with magnificent stained glass. Yet, these bones held more than mere function. They wove themselves into the very fabric of the cathedral's beauty. Artisans shaped them, adorned them with soaring pinnacles and intricate crockets, transforming them into enchanting miniature stone forests. Gaze upon Notre Dame of Paris or the Amiens Cathedral, and you will witness these buttresses standing resolutely, like Gothic sentinels encircling the apse. Every single one was a remarkable achievement in the realm of mathematics. Each piece needed to be positioned with care, tilted just so, and harmonized with the perfect measure of counterbalance. Too fragile, and they'd break when faced with adversity. Too powerful, and they would shatter the heart of the structure. In a time long past, a tale unfolded reminiscent of Goldilocks, yet the porridge was replaced by mountains of granite, and the stakes were nothing short of catastrophic. Indeed, not every endeavor unfolded as planned. Puvavi Cathedral is renowned for its ambitious aspirations. It sought to reach the heavens, aspiring to be the tallest of them all. Yet despite its flying buttresses and sturdy reinforcements, sections of it crumbled away on numerous occasions. It stands incomplete even now, a testament to the fact that even the most skilled creators can soar too near the dazzling heights of their own ambitions. Yet, when they achieved perfection, the outcome was nothing short of astonishing. As you stepped into the realm, it enveloped you in a sensation of weightlessness, as if the very air around you was suspended in time. Barriers vanished. The ceiling loomed above, soft and ethereal, reminiscent of a drifting cloud, and one couldn't help but ponder, how is this even standing? At a certain moment, the architects of the Gothic era gazed upon their magnificent cathedrals and pondered, what if we reached for the skies? And so unfolded one of the most peculiar arms races in the annals of medieval Europe. A fierce contest unfolds, each participant striving to be the first to challenge the divine gaze. Towers held secrets beyond the mere tolling of bells or the sweeping vistas of the town square. They spoke of affluence, devotion, and an unbridled sense of civic pride. The cities aspired to more than just humble steeples. They sought the grandest, the most radiant, the one that would linger in the whispers of travelers long after their journeys had left them weary. Every cathedral unfolded its unique narrative. In the heart of Paris, Notre Dame rose majestically, its two grand twin towers standing sentinel over the flowing Seine, a testament to time and artistry. Chartres rose with its towers, each one telling a tale of uneven heights. One Romanesque, one later Gothic, for true artistry knows no bounds. Ah, the magnificent Cologne Cathedral! It embarked on a journey to claim the title of the tallest structure in the world. In the 1200s, the journey of construction commenced. Their work continued on, weaving through the years until the 1880s arrived. Such dedication. Then the spires emerged on the horizon, the sharp-tipped headwear of the Gothic realm. Not merely towers, but elongated spears that soared to astonishing heights, challenging reason and inviting gravity to take a chance. Behold the towering spire of Salisbury Cathedral, reaching an impressive height of over 400 feet. With nothing but ropes, sheer strength, and a dash of daring spirit from a bygone era, they constructed it, defying the need for steel or modern machinery. Yet ascending further brought with it peril. With each step taken higher, the burden grew heavier, the balance more precarious, the danger more palpable. Unyielding gusts may shatter unbraced towers. The relentless dance of lightning illuminated the sky. In certain towns, there existed a unique role known as spire watchers, individuals tasked with the vigilant duty of observing the towering structures, ever alert for signs that they might be on the brink of collapse. And still the builders pressed on, their hands crafting dreams into reality. A portion of it delved into the realm of theology. The loftier the edifice, the nearer to the divine. Yet there was an element that delved into the realm of the mind. These were battles of the skyline. To have a taller spire in the neighboring city was to concede that their devotion and wealth surpassed your own. Inexcusable, the outcome? A rugged landscape of stone rising dramatically throughout Europe. These towers held secrets beyond their beauty. They grasped bells as large as wagons, intricate clock mechanisms, and even ancient relics. Some served the dual purpose of watchtowers or defensive platforms, standing tall against the horizon. Some merely lived to dazzle, to instill fear, or to evoke a shiver down the spine. The Gothic towers stood silent, their presence far from celestial whispers. They let out a piercing cry. Yet, amidst the grandeur and aspirations etched in stone, the true essence of a cathedral resided in the poignant tales of those who crafted, revered, and occasionally met their fate within its hallowed walls. Underneath each majestic cathedral lay a bedrock of bone, both in a metaphorical sense and, at times, in the most literal way. These testaments of devotion were not crafted by celestial beings or holy figures. Constructed by those with muddy boots and calloused hands, the stonecutters, carpenters, glaziers, blacksmiths, and a legion of nameless laborers toiled away, receiving none of the accolades, but all of the aches and pains that came with their hard work. Allow me to begin with the masons. They were more than mere stone stackers. They were artisans who transformed raw stone into verses that could support the weight of dreams. While a master mason may have envisioned the grandeur of the cathedral, it was the skilled hands of journeymen and apprentices that brought it to life through their carving, chiseling, and hauling. Each block needed to align flawlessly, leaving no room for mistakes. A single misstep could lead to downfall. And so the carpenters entered the scene. They crafted not merely scaffolding, but intricate machines of wonder. Massive treadwheel cranes, driven by the tireless efforts of men moving in a manner reminiscent of hamsters on their wheels. Platforms that can be shifted, crafted wooden molds designed for the careful pouring of mortar. Within the confines of the vault, the wooden framework demanded precision. Any miscalculation could lead to a catastrophic collapse the moment it was freed. Take your time, and let us not overlook the mortar mixers, the rope makers, the water haulers, and those brave souls who ascended to the pinnacle of a spire to place that one final stone. All for a handful of coins each week, and the rare chance to escape the clutches of fate while toiling away. In the shadow of the grand cathedral, a tapestry of makeshift villages emerged, where countless laborers made their homes, weaving their lives into the very fabric of the sacred grounds. In these camps, one could find a unique set of rules, an array of food stalls, and undoubtedly a few lively taverns to share tales and laughter. Misfortunes occurred with regularity. In a moment of distraction, the tools fell from grasp. Cracks echoed through the stones. At times, whole structures would collapse, crumbling under the weight of their own ambition. Injuries frequently led to dire consequences, and the workforce was merely replenished. But what was their motivation behind it? For some, it was a reliable path in a landscape filled with limited choices. For some, it was a calling to serve the divine, a chance to be woven into the fabric of the eternal. For those few who could read and had the drive, it opened doors to guild, membership, and even a chance at climbing the social ladder. Many never witnessed the fruition of their labor. Building a cathedral might span a century or even longer. One mason could skillfully shape a corner of a doorframe, fully aware that his grandson would one day complete the opposite side. Such was the cadence of crafting cathedrals. Endless, arduous, spanning generations. What you created wasn't solely for your own benefit. You were crafted to last forever. And while their names may elude us, their essence lingers, etched in the stones, captured in the glass, and woven into the ethereal arches that defy gravity and time. You've glimpsed the world. Beyond, you've gazed in wonder at the soaring spires and the shimmering glass that dances with light. Yet one must ponder, what purpose did it serve? As you enter the grand, Gothic cathedral, at the height of its glory, you realize it transcends mere architecture. In the grand theater of the universe, the Mass took center stage, captivating all with its stellar performance. As the first light of dawn broke, the air filled with the melodic chants of monks or canons, marking the beginning of a sacred rhythm. With their first prayer of the day. In the days of yore, if one found themselves in the humble garb of a peasant, such treasures were not meant for their grasp. On Sundays, during feast days, or whenever the bells tolled with a fervor that echoed the urgency of salvation, you made your way here. The gathering was anything but subdued. The experience was a whirlwind of sensations. The air was thick with the scent of incense. Chimes echoed at pivotal moments. Ancient melodies of Latin filled the air, bouncing off the stone walls and weaving through the lofty arches above. Perhaps the meaning eludes you, yet that was never the essence of the tale. You were experiencing the extraordinary, not merely sitting in a classroom. And then came the relics. Almost every cathedral possessed one. A saint's finger, a fragment. Of the true cross, a vial of sacred tears, some genuine, others ingeniously obtained. These were not mere curiosities. They radiated an extraordinary energy that transcended the ordinary. Wanderers journeyed vast distances, driven by a yearning to witness them, to feel their presence, or to simply be in their vicinity. And where the seekers journeyed, wealth trailed. Behind, artifacts signified honor, generosity, and a flourishing market for keepsakes. Extraordinary occasions transformed the cathedral into a vibrant stage of performance. Imagine the grandeur of coronations, the splendor of royal weddings, the solemnity of funerals, or the reverence of Easter masses, where choirs fill the balconies, organs resonate with power, and bishops adorned in gold-threaded vestments gracefully make their way down the nave. It was a grand spectacle, crafted to inspire wonder and astonishment. Yet not every moment was filled with splendor. Cathedrals were places woven into the fabric of daily life. In their many forms, they became gathering places, centers of learning, venues for justice, and havens when the skies unleashed their fury. Vendors occasionally arranged their stalls in the open air. The townspeople assembled upon the steps. In the quiet corners of the cloisters, where shadows danced and secrets lingered, children likely engaged in spirited games of tag, their laughter echoing softly when the watchful eyes were turned away. Amidst the unfolding events, a palpable tension lingered in the air. Not all were embraced with the same warmth. Women frequently found themselves pushed to the shadows. Though the destitute may receive bread without cost, their voices seldom echo in the halls of power. And what of the clergy? In a realm of their own making, they thrived within a rigid hierarchy. Their bellies full, yet at times their hearts strayed into shadows darker than light. Yet the cathedral stood as the soul of the city, a realm where the celestial embraced the terrestrial, where the passage of time felt altered, and where the interplay of stone and sacred practice intertwined to gently remind all of their role. In the magnificent tapestry of existence. As the 1500s drew to a close, the Gothic cathedral, once revered as the shining beacon of Christendom, began to fade into the shadows of history. As the world shifted around them, those grand towers and vibrant stained glass tailies found themselves at odds with the rhythm of the new era. With the dawn of the Renaissance, a fervent fascination with the glories of classical antiquity emerged, captivating minds and hearts alike. In a time of great creativity, architects and patrons turned their gaze towards the grandeur of ancient Rome, seeking to capture its essence in their own works. They sought balance, rounded tops, and sleek contours, shunning the soaring supports and thickets of sharp arches. In the eyes of the Renaissance thinker, Gothic architecture stood not as a testament to the divine, but rather as a symbol of barbarism. They even labeled it Gothic, a term meant to mock, drawing from the memory of the Goths who had once laid waste to Rome long ago. Yet it transcended mere appearances. The Protestant Reformation trembled the very ground beneath the cathedral's mighty structures. In a time of great upheaval, figures such as Martin Luther passionately challenged the Church's lavishness and its fixation on relics, rituals, and indulgences elements that had become the very essence of cathedrals. In numerous Protestant areas, the cathedrals lost their precious adornments. Shattered stained glass lay in fragments, statues stood headless, and altars were scrubbed clean of their former glory. The glow that once twirled through hallowed moments now rested upon empty surfaces. In the meantime, the Catholic regions intensified their efforts. The Counter-Reformation sparked a wave of Baroque transformations. Gold, marble, and a grand theatrical flair took the place of the subtle Gothic mystery. The dimly lit nave transformed into a vibrant tableau of captivating tailies. Some cathedrals underwent transformations so profound that their Gothic essence disappeared beneath the weight of stucco and cherubs. And let us not overlook the tale of the financial collapse. Conflict, disease, and changing pathways of commerce led to diminished funds for magnificent endeavors. Numerous cathedrals stand as echoes of ambition, their grand designs halted before completion. The towers halted, their ascent frozen in time. The towering spires were reduced to mere stumps. Masterful guilds disbanded. The era of master masons slipped away, as ephemeral as wisps of smoke drifting through a shattered rose window. Yet the demise of the Gothic marked not the conclusion of its tale. In the 19th century, a captivating Gothic revival unfurled its wings across Europe. The spirit of Romanticism breathed new life into an enduring enchantment with the medieval era. Visionaries such as Victor Hugo transformed crumbling cathedrals into luminaries of literature. Restoration campaigns, some meticulously planned and others fraught with disaster, endeavored to revive their past splendor. Envision Notre Dame in all its glory before the flames danced around its storied walls. Imagine the Cologne Cathedral, a masterpiece completed after countless generations of dedication and labor. Today, Gothic cathedrals rise majestically, some untouched by time, others bearing the marks of history's tumult. These structures stand as testaments not only to belief, but also to the boundless spirit of humanity, creativity, and the yearning to reach for the skies with stone. Though the Gothic boom has faded, its resonance lingers in every arch, every shadow, and every beam of colored light. As the 13th century drew to a close, the once mighty Crusader kingdoms in the Holy Land began to fade away, their glory slipping through the fingers of time like grains of sand. One by one, the mighty Christian conquests, Jerusalem, Antioch, Edessa, met their fate and fell. What lingered from nearly 2 centuries of European crusading was the port city of Acre, a last dimly glowing outpost along the Mediterranean coast, once a symbol of glory, now transformed into a stronghold of despair. Acre emerged not merely as a city, but as the illustrious Crusader capital, the vibrant pulse of the remnants of the Kingdom of Jerusalem. It was a realm adorned with sturdy stone walls, majestic Gothic churches, and a tapestry of cultures in vibrant conflict. Amidst the bustling scene, merchants from Genoa and Venice mingled with warrior monks of the Templars and Hospitallers, while nobles, their titles now mere echoes of past grandeur, clung to the remnants of their once great power. Yet, hidden beneath the opulence and soaring fortifications, Acre simmered with tension, ready to ignite at any moment. Within the city, the European factions engaged in as much conflict amongst themselves as they did in readying for the looming siege that awaited them. The signs had been evident for years. In the annals of history, the Mamluks emerged as a formidable military elite from Egypt, systematically dismantling each crusader's stronghold that dared to stand in their way. In the era of Sultan Kalawan and his son Al-Ashraf Halil, the Mamluks swept through city after city, leaving no room for negotiation. They simply obliterated all in their path. In the year of our Lord 1290, a reckless spark set forth a tempest of chaos. In a fervor of zeal and folly, the newly arrived crusaders unleashed chaos upon the streets of Acre, where the unsuspecting Muslim merchants fell victim to their reckless and intoxicated fury. It was precisely the justification the Mamluks sought. Halil proclaimed a battle cry. By April of 1291, a formidable army, perhaps exceeding 100,000 in number, had surrounded the city. As the siege unfolded, towering structures advanced, while beneath the earth, tunnels were carved with precision. Above, catapults unleashed a relentless barrage of stone and flame, day and night, painting a vivid picture of conflict and determination. Within the heart of the city, a wave of panic surged forth. The brave defenders stood their ground, yet they faced an overwhelming tide of foes. Calls for reinforcements to Europe fell on deaf ears. Acre found itself in solitude, severed from the land and soon from the embrace of the sea. Yet the defenders held tightly to their flickering flame of hope. The formidable double walls of Acre had withstood the test of time, enduring sieges in the past, in the shadow of impending doom. The Templars and Hospitallers steeled themselves for the challenges that lay ahead. In the dim light of the grand halls, noble families gathered, their treasures shimmering with stories untold. In solemn reverence, the priests raised their voices in prayer. Warriors honed their weapons, knowing full well that these blades might remain forever in their scabbards. For this was not a siege driven by the desire for ransom or land. This marks the conclusion of the Crusaders' chapter in the Holy Land. It was on the fateful day of April 5th, in the year 1291, that the siege of Acre commenced, marking the start of a pivotal chapter in history. In a grand display of might, the Mamluk army, under the command of Sultan al-Ashraf Halil, made its formidable entrance. Craftsmen of steel, masters of the bow, noble horsemen, and a formidable array of siege engines, capable of reducing a city twice its grandeur to rubble. They encircled Acre from every direction, erecting towering wooden fortifications and excavating deep trenches as the resonant beat of war drums echoed across the vast plains beyond the city's formidable walls. The sound echoed not merely to instill fear, but to convey a solemn vow. Show no compassion. Within the walls of Acre, the guardians gazed upon a vast expanse of tents and fluttering banners. In the annals of history, the Mamluks emerged as a formidable force, marked by their unwavering discipline and seasoned expertise. This was no disorganized band of misfits. These were the valiant fighters who had triumphed over the Mongols at Ain Jalut, laid waste to Antioch, and claimed Tripoli as their own. Their history spoke volumes. When they arrived, the cities were engulfed in flames. The Crusaders rose to the challenge, doing all they could in the face of adversity. Upon the ancient battlements, the Templars, Hospitallers, and Teutonic Knights stood resolute, ready to face the unfolding tale of valor and honor. In the midst of turmoil, ordinary people found themselves tasked with the heavy burden of transporting water, mending what was broken, and constructing hasty defenses. As the priests traversed the ancient walls, they bestowed final blessings upon warriors who had yet to unsheathe their blades. Yet the harmony within the city was but a delicate mirage. In a lively scene, the Italians, Venetians, Genoese, and Pisans engaged in spirited debates over their ships and the dominion of the bustling harbor. In a world where shadows of suspicion loomed large, the French and English factions found themselves ensnared in a web of distrust. In the grand tapestry of Jerusalem's history, King Henry II of Cyprus held the title of ruler, yet he was more a symbol of authority than a true leader guiding his people. There was no singular tale that wove them together. In the midst of it all, the Mamluks sprang into action without hesitation. As the sappers commenced their work, they delved deep beneath the sprawling outer walls, carefully placing wooden supports and meticulously filling the shafts with materials that would ignite with a fierce blaze. As the flames flickered to life, the very walls of these tunnels would tremble and succumb to the weight above, crumbling down from below. With relentless fury, the siege engines unleashed their colossal stones, day and night, battering towers shattering rooftops and scattering fragments of masonry across homes, churches, and courtyards. With each passing day, the city fell further into decay. With each passing night, the weary defenders toiled to rebuild, their spirits tested and their strength waning against overwhelming odds. Halil proceeded with careful precision. He understood that the walls of Acre were formidable, yet not invincible. All he required was a moment to breathe. The defenders, their numbers dwindling, found themselves ensnared in a relentless dance of despair and fleeting optimism. And the mind games were equally merciless. Voices echoed through the streets, proclaiming grim fates for those who dared to resist the city's surrender. Those who had endured the Mamluk conquests understood all too well that the threats were far from hollow. Acre found itself in a lonely plight, encircled and racing against the clock. As April gracefully yielded to May, the walls of Acre remained, yet their strength waned. The relentless assault of Mamluk siege engines transformed once mighty towers into mere piles of rubble, shattered outer defenses, and scattered debris across the streets. The city's guardians held fast to their dwindling bastions, weary and outmatched, yet still unyielding. With valor and purpose, the Templars and Hospitallers took the forefront, both in action and in spirit. These were not mere novices. They were seasoned warriors, forged in the fires of relentless battles, prepared for moments such as this. Adorned in chainmail, wielding blackened shields and donning blood-stained tunics, they unleashed fierce counterattacks from the inner walls and towers, striving to impede the relentless advance of the Mamluks. Each venture beyond the gate was a roll of the dice dot at times. They would come back bearing trophies, while on other occasions they vanished without a trace. Within the heart of the city, a wave of panic began to unfurl. Amidst the bustling docks, a tapestry of civilians, women, children, merchants, and priests gathered, their hopes intertwined as they prayed for the arrival of ships that seemed destined to remain absent. Some sought to escape, offering sailors gold for a place on merchant ships. In times of despair, many sought solace within the church, grasping at relics and invoking the saints, yearning for a touch of the divine to guide them through the darkness. In a time of turmoil, King Henry II of Cyprus had made his escape, abandoning a command that lay in disarray. The defenders' coordination fell apart. The Genoese cast their accusations upon the Pisans, who in turn pointed fingers at the Templars, who then deflected blame onto others. In a city under siege, not just by the Mamluks, but also by the shadows of its own turmoil, yet there existed instances of valiant bravery. On a fateful night, the Mamluks found a way through a narrow gap in the wall, close to the cursed tower. Anticipating an easy victory, they surged forward, only to be confronted by an unexpected countercharge spearheaded by the Hospitallers. Amidst the tumult, blades met in the flickering glow of torches, figures fell into the waves, and for a fleeting instant, the Crusaders gained ground. The breach was sealed, if only for a moment, yet these triumphs were but whispers in the wind. The provisions started to fade away. Wells met their fate, either tainted or shattered by the relentless descent of debris. A shadow of disease slinked its way through the crowded quarters of the refugees. In the shadows of the streets, where the lifeless lay, the rats feasted, and with each gnaw, the spirit of the people decayed alongside them. The defenders found themselves dwindling in every resource, their ranks thinning, their arsenal nearly depleted, and the clock ticking mercilessly against them. Sultan Halil, in that moment, exuded an air of tranquility. With relentless determination, his engineers burrowed into the earth, his catapults launched their projectiles into the heavens, and his archers unleashed a storm of arrows that darkened the skies. He took his time, savoring each moment. He understood that Acre's days were numbered, and the decisive moment was drawing near. The guardians of Acre continued to whisper their hopes for a miracle to the heavens. On the fateful day of May 18th, 1291, the long anticipation drew to a close. As the first light of dawn broke, the Mamluks prepared to unleash their ultimate charge. The siege towers advanced, their massive forms moving steadily onward. Up went the scaling ladders, reaching for the heights above. Deep beneath the ancient eastern wall of Acre, a network of tunnels lay hidden, filled with kindling that was ignited, unleashing a fiery spectacle. The earth shook as flames feasted upon the timber beams, and with a resounding roar, a colossal portion of the wall crumbled, sending stone, dust, and defenders plummeting into the depths of the moat beneath, dot with the clarion call of war echoing. Through the air, the Mamluks charged forth, pouring through the opening like a relentless tide. They arrived in droves, a sea of eager faces. Amidst the crumbling city streets, the heavy infantry of the Mamluks stood resolute, while Sudanese archers took their positions, ready to unleash their arrows. Horsemen charged forward, their presence commanding the chaos around them. The Crusaders confronted them with all their might. The Templar knights stood resolute, their shield wall unyielding, halberds poised for the impending clash. The Hospitallers gathered the frightened civilians, guiding them with purpose toward the docks. Amidst the cacophony of clashing steel, the priests raised their voices in fervent prayers, yet their pleas fell short. The defenders found themselves outnumbered, weary, and lacking in cohesion. The city, once a bastion against relentless tides, now splintered like ancient armor, revealing its vulnerabilities. Flames engulfed the structures. Structures crumbled to the ground. The clash unfolded. From one street to another, from house to house, and from tower to tower, every corner transformed into a battleground. The Genoese quarter succumbed swiftly, overwhelmed in mere hours. The Venetian compound, a bastion of resilience, stood strong for a time. Its walls like those of a miniature fortress, yet ultimately succumbed to the consuming flames. Echoes of terror filled the alleys as the Mamluks moved forward with an unyielding determination. Those who dared to resist faced a grim fate. The ones who escaped became the prey dot in the shadows of history. One of the final bastions stood resolute, the Templar fortress by the harbor, sturdy barriers, fortified sentinels. It stood as the last bastion, a refuge in the face of calamity. At last, it stood as the final refuge. Within the shadows, women and children sought refuge in the cellars, their whispers mingling with the distant clamor of knights resolutely defending the battlements one last time. From their vantage point atop the roof, the sprawling city lay before them, a shadow of its former self, slowly succumbing to the passage of time. Acre, a once glorious jewel of the Crusader kingdoms, now stands as a haunting landscape, engulfed in smoke and stained with blood. As darkness enveloped the land, the valiant stand of the Crusaders crumbled into the shadows. In the face of overwhelming odds, the remaining knights retreated to the docks, their hearts set on a desperate bid for freedom across the waves. The harbor transformed into a frantic choke point. Families packed tightly onto overcrowded vessels. Voices raised in a cacophony of shouts and tears, with some desperately plunging into the water in a frenzy of fear. Only a handful of ships managed to escape before the Mamluks took command of the harbor. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Acre transformed, shedding its identity as a city. In the stillness of the night, there lay a graveyard. Amidst the flames and the cries of a city in turmoil, one stronghold remained unyielding. Behold the Templar fortress, a grand stone edifice standing resolutely by the sea, its walls whispering tales of valor and mystery. The walls had withstood the relentless sieges of the Mamluks in times past. In that moment, it transformed into the final refuge for countless souls seeking safety. In the shadowed depths of the great halls, knights, women, children, and priests gathered, their hearts united in fervent hope that the ancient walls would endure for just one more day. In the heart of the fortress, a figure of authority stood resolute, Peter de Severs, the Templar Marshal of Acre, wielding his command with unwavering strength. He sensed the approaching tide of fate. He commanded the gates to be locked tight, the battlements to be occupied, and the hidden passages to be securely closed off. The knights formed a steadfast line, some bearing the marks of battle, while others struggled to raise their swords high. They were not battling for victory. They were engaging in a struggle to embrace their fate with meaning. In the shadows of the fortress, the Mamluks gathered, their presence a looming threat. In a moment steeped in intrigue, Sultan Halil dispatched his envoys, tasked with the delicate mission of brokering a surrender. The conditions were severe: captivity for the knights, bondage for the common folk. The Templars stood resolute in their decision. They understood the harsh truth of mercy's absence. With great determination, the Mamluks assembled their siege engines, readying themselves for the decisive moment of their final assault. With each passing day, the relentless assault on the walls continued. Yet the stronghold was crafted to endure trials far more daunting. For more than a week, the Templars stood their ground, unleashing a relentless barrage from their towers, casting stones and pouring scalding oil upon any who dared to ascend the ladders. Within those walls, the situation was grim. The provisions were all but depleted. In the shadows, the wounded let out soft, haunting groans. Little ones wept. Yet they continued to battle. In a tale of valor, a knight, with a leg shattered by the cruel hand of fate, summoned every ounce of strength to drag himself to the wall. With a fierce determination, he hurled a stone into the fray before succumbing to the weight of his wounds. And so it was, on the fateful day of May 28th, that calamity descended upon us. With a thunderous clash, the Mamluks surged forth, breaking through the outer wall of the fortress. Chaos erupted within the confines of the courtyard. With fervor in their hearts, Templars and civilians alike seized whatever weapons they could find. It was a fierce clash of wills, a dance of strength and skill, fierce and unforgiving. The defenders found themselves retreating, each step a testament to their struggle, as they were driven deeper into the fortress's inner chambers, the ground stained with the evidence of their fierce battle. As the final moments approached, the Templars found themselves at a crossroads, compelled to make a choice born of urgency and resolve. They intentionally brought down a section of the fortress. In a climactic twist, they cunningly drew the Mamluk troops into the depths of the lower chambers and unleashed the explosive fury of the underground armory. The blast surged forth, shattering the walls and claiming the lives of both assailants and guardians in a whirlwind of flames and debris. Once mighty, the fortress crumbled, yet it held its ground. The final bastion of the Crusaders in the Holy Land fell, not in defeat, but in a blaze of defiance. Acre slipped away into the annals of history. The vision of a united Christendom in the East lay in ruins. As the haze dissipated, Acre had transformed, no longer standing as a city. What was once a lively capital of the Crusader states, alive with the sounds of markets, the beauty of churches, and the presence of foreign embassies, now lay in ruins, a desolate expanse of ash and lifeless bodies. One by one, the Mamluks advanced, claiming each street and dismantling every wall, leaving in their wake nothing but desolation. Sultan al-Ashraf Halil sought more than mere triumph. He yearned for oblivion. He commanded the total dismantling of the city's defenses. Each tower, each wall, each stone that had once stood as a guardian for the Crusaders was torn asunder or laid to ruin. The harbor lay, strewn with debris. The ancient churches, standing for centuries, faced devastation stripped bare, set ablaze, or transformed into mosques. What could not find a second life was cast away into oblivion. the devastation unfolded with chilling precision. This was not an act of retribution. It was a masterful plan. Halil was determined to ensure that Acre would forever be stripped of its status as a stronghold for Europe, that it would no longer serve as a gateway for crusading forces, and that it would cease to represent a bastion of Christian influence in the East. Among the few who endured, primarily the innocent souls taken captive, some faced the grim fate of enslavement, while others met their end by execution. In the grand tapestry of history, there existed noble women who found themselves woven into the intricate harems of the Mamluk elites in the bustling markets, stretching from Cairo to Damascus. Some children found themselves caught in a tragic tale of being sold, their stories woven into the fabric of a harsh reality. Their names faded into the ether. In the quiet aftermath, their tales faded into stillness. The ocean lay heavy with the remnants of shattered vessels and the lifeless forms of the lost. And the foul odor? It hung in the air for weeks, stretching into months even. The news of the fall swept across Europe, striking like a sudden blow. A wave of panic surged through the courts of France and England. Even the highest among us shed tears. Voices rose in fervor, summoning the faithful to gather for yet another grand crusade. Yet the strength of resolve had faded away. The final ember of zealous ambition extinguished alongside the fortifications of Acre. In the grand tapestry of Europe, the kings were embroiled in their own conflicts, each preoccupied with the legacies of their dynasties. Not once upon a time, the Holy Land slipped from grasp, and they were aware of it. The Templars, once the revered champions of Christendom, found themselves fragmented by the weight of their defeat. They journeyed back to Europe, bearing the marks of their struggles, wandering without purpose. Their strength would remain forever diminished. In a mere span of 2 decades, they would face complete dissolution, branded as heretics, subjected to torment, and ultimately meet their end by execution. The fall of Acre marked the dawn of their demise. For the Mamluks, the conquest of Acre shone like a precious gem in their illustrious crown. The vision of a crusader kingdom in the Levant lay shattered, trampled underfoot. Yet the true legacy of the siege was only starting to unfold, for as the city met its demise, the legend of Acre of heroic crusaders and their poignant downfall was just beginning to take shape. The fall of Acre in 1291 was more than a mere military defeat. It was a moment etched in time. For almost 200 years, the great nations of Europe have invested their lifeblood, wealth, and unwavering belief into the sacred soil of the Holy Land. As Acre fell, the grand vision of the Crusaders crumbled, echoing the destruction of its once mighty walls. All avenues of escape had vanished, leaving nothing but the vast expanse ahead. Tyre, Sidon, Beirut, once bastions of strength, fell swiftly into abandonment or capitulation. Once the Crusader states flourished, their vibrant territories vividly illustrated along the Levantine shores, but in the blink of an eye they faded into obscurity. What lingered was a whisper of the past, fragmented remnants, and the handful who had fled by sea, gazing at the smoke that curled up from the horizon. For the Christian realm, it was a heart-wrenching defeat. The fall of Jerusalem in 1187 was a dark chapter, yet Acre marked the final piece in this tragic tale. It represented not merely a defeat on the battlefield, but a profound loss of spirit, in a time of fervent hope. The popes raised their voices, urging the faithful to embark on renewed crusades, yet their pleas echoed in vain, met with silence and indifference. Europe lay weary, its spirit worn thin. Amidst the chaos of internal conflicts, the ravages of disease, and the tumult of economic upheaval, the gaze of the world shifted from the east, the ear of sovereigns adorned with crosses. Commanding legions into the arid expanse had come to an end. In the midst of it all, the Islamic world rejoiced. Under the leadership of Halil, The Mamluks achieved what countless generations of Muslim leaders had long aspired to accomplish. The Latin presence had been erased from the region, leaving only echoes of its past. Once again, cities rose from the ashes, mosques found their voices anew, and the lifeblood of commerce flowed through the reopened trade routes. The lands of the Levant, stretching from Cairo to Damascus, once more found themselves under the embrace of Islam. And yet the lines were not as sharply drawn. The echoes of the Crusades lingered, leaving behind profound wounds in the fabric of history. In a tale of transformation, the threads of cultural exchange wove a rich tapestry, altering the landscapes of both East and West. For better or worse, Arabic texts began their journey into Europe. The realms of architecture, medicine, and even the culinary arts had undergone transformation. Yet the conflicts wove a tapestry of mistrust, violence, and religious division, threads that would resonate through the ages. Acre's fall didn't merely close a chapter. It brought an entire worldview to its conclusion. The notion that Europe might establish its presence in the Middle East, impose its desires under the guise of a sacred calling, and claim land in the name of belief, vanished. Instead, the memory of the Crusades would be transformed into a tale of heroism, embellished with drama and wielded as a powerful narrative for generations to come. Brave warriors clad in gleaming metal, daring adventures, and tales of both triumph and defeat. The reality unfolded in a tangled web of chaos, drenched in blood and steeped in tragedy. The fall of Acre signified the conclusion of a significant chapter in history. The tale of the Crusader, a legend steeped in valor and ambition. That was merely the start of its enduring journey into myth. The fall of Acre reverberated throughout Europe, stirring not only diplomatic and religious tensions, but also deep psychological currents. For ages, the followers of Christ held steadfast to the conviction that they were destined to govern the Holy Land, convinced that divine favor rested upon them, and that the sacred cities of Jerusalem, Bethlehem, and Acre were rightfully theirs. The final bastion of the Crusaders fallen, the veil of illusion shattered. The first reaction was one of incredulity. Chroniclers penned their tales with a deep sense of outrage and sorrow. Clerics pointed fingers at vice and moral decay. The kings cast blame upon one another. What twist of fate led to this moment? How could a band of noble champions falter against a sultan from Cairo? Yet, hidden away in the depths, a subtle acceptance began to take hold. A grand crusade to reclaim Acre would not unfold. No fifth, sixth, or seventh wave of European armies embarking on their journey to the east. Instead, Europe looked within. The papacy turned its attention to the urgent task of eradicating heresy within its own borders. The Inquisition's power swelled, casting a shadow over all. Rulers turned their sights inward, engaging in fierce battles and intricate family feuds. The fervent zeal transformed into mere words rather than genuine action. As the years unfolded, the vision of Acre transformed within the minds of Europeans. It had transformed beyond the essence of a city. It transformed into a poignant emblem of fated splendor, heroic sacrifice, and celestial retribution. Ballads and verses were crafted about valiant knights battling to the end. Artists and dramatists wove the autumn into a tapestry of tales. Yet, the ones who endured held the truth within their hearts. The refugees who had escaped Acre, a mix of nobles, monks, merchants, and children, returned to Europe, their spirits shattered. Countless souls discovered that no shelter awaited their return. Some found their way into the embrace of monastic orders. Others roamed, weaving tales of flames and crimson. In time, the Teutonic Knights found their path leading them to the vast landscapes of Eastern Europe. Upon their return to France, the Templars found themselves haunted by the lingering specter of Acre, a presence that would ultimately lead them to the flames of the pyre. In the realm of politics, The fall of Acre signaled the dawn of a transformative era. Authority had taken hold in the realm of territory and legislation, rather than through sacred missions. The age of spiritual dominion had soared to its zenith, yet the winds of change whispered of its impending twilight. And yet, Acre remained, holding on to its secrets. It remained etched in the mind, woven into narratives, in the manner Europeans recounted tales of the East, a realm shrouded in peril, enigma, and promise. A realm forgotten, yet one day it may rise to glory once more. Gone was the city, as if it had never existed. Yet, the tale of Acre was only just starting to weave its way through the lands, reaching far beyond its charred boundaries. Long after its fall, Acre lingers in the shadows of our minds, a tale woven into the fabric of time. The stones crumbled into dust, the churches ascended, and the walls were drawn into the depths of the sea. Yet, in the imaginations of European chroniclers and subsequent historians, Acre transformed into something far greater than just a city. It emerged as the emblem of the Crusades' sorrowful demise. In a realm where honor met its end, where belief clashed with despair, and where the vision of a Christian East was laid to rest beneath the weight of Mamluk footsteps. And yet, what endured was not the essence of Acre. It was the tale. In the grand tapestry of ballads and epic poems, the defenders of Acre are immortalized not as quarrelsome warlords or disillusioned mercenaries, but as gallant knights standing resolutely and valiantly until the very end. Amidst the swirling tempest of political upheaval, the insatiable hunger for power, and the treachery lurking in the shadows, a more digestible tale emerges, carefully crafted to mask the tumult beneath. In the shadows of sacrifice, valor intertwines with fate, leaving behind a tale of dreams unfulfilled. Ah, the twist of fate! Those who had truly experienced life in Acre likely did not perceive themselves as characters in a grand narrative dot in the bustling tapestry of life. They took on many roles: merchants trading wares, sailors navigating the vast seas, cooks crafting delectable meals, scribes recording tales, prostitutes offering companionship, and pilgrims journeying in search of meaning. In a vibrant, intricate city, the air was alive with the sounds of Arabic, French, Italian, Greek, and Latin, weaving together in a rich tapestry of culture and life. A place where opposites collide, where sacred monasteries stand in the shadow of brothels, and the noble crusading orders mingle with the shrewd Venetian banker's dot. It was a complex tapestry, woven with threads of time, for the past seldom unfolds in straightforward lines. In the realm of the Islamic world, the fall of Acre was etched in memory as a monumental victory, a testament to divine justice and the triumph over foreign invaders. Yet, even that tale frequently diminishes in the shadow of the grand legacies left by other Islamic conquests. Acre was but one shining gem in the vast treasure trove of the Mamluks. It held significance, yet it was not the entirety of the crown. Today, the vibrant city of Acre, known as Akko, pulses with life once more, a place of remarkable history, where the echoes of Crusader architecture lie, hidden beneath the bustling Ottoman streets. Wanderers meander through time-worn passages, echoing with the valor and sacrifice of nights long past. Amidst the whispers of time, minarets rise gracefully alongside the ancient Gothic arches, each telling a tale of a bygone era. From the very docks where desperate souls once sought refuge, fishermen now cast their nets, weaving tales of survival and hope into the fabric of the sea. The past lingers on, hidden beneath layers of stones, shrouded in myths and woven into the fabric of time. And thus unfolds the genuine legacy of Acre. It was more than a mere city or a conflict. It stood as a pivotal junction, a vibrant clash of cultures, empires, and beliefs. A realm where belief, aspiration, and trepidation collided in a climactic blaze of intensity. The siege of Acre marked the conclusion of a significant chapter, yet it guaranteed that neither the Crusades nor the echoes of their legacy would fade into oblivion. In the year 58 BCE, a remarkable figure emerged into a world where the Roman Republic was in turmoil. Born to Marcus Livius Drusus Claudianus, she hailed from a distinguished lineage of patricians, each adept at navigating the treacherous waters of Rome's relentless political arena, where power was both coveted and perilous. She was born into a legacy of privilege, yet her existence was steeped in turmoil. In the twilight of the Republic, Rome stood not merely as a realm of political turmoil, but as a raw and aching wound, exposed to the elements of chaos and strife. In a land torn asunder, civil wars erupted, fueled by the ambitions of power-hungry generals. Alliances crumbled like fragile pottery, and assassination became a calculated step in the relentless pursuit of dominance. In a world forged by fire, Livia learned a lesson that resonated deep within her soul. While beauty may capture the gaze, it is the sharp mind, unwavering loyalty, and the art of strategic thinking that truly ensure one's survival. At the tender age of 15, Livia found herself wed to her cousin Tiberius Claudius Nero, a devoted champion of the Republic and a fierce adversary of Julius Caesar. This was not a union born of affection, but rather a strategic alliance, much like many of the marriages in ancient Rome. Yet, young Livia swiftly embraced her new identity as a Roman matron, devoted wife, expectant mother, and keen watcher of the tumultuous currents swirling about her. When Caesar met his end in 44 BCE, the true spectacle unfolded. The civil war surged back, fierce and relentless. In a dramatic clash, Mark Antony and Octavian, the rightful heir of Caesar, battled fiercely to seize the power left in the wake of his absence. And so it was that Livia and her husband found themselves on the side that did not prevail. With a child growing within her, she found herself fleeing the heart of Rome, seeking shelter in one makeshift haven after another, all the while her husband evaded the fury of Octavian. That journey through exile, hardship, and near constant uncertainty forged her spirit. And when she made her way back to Rome under a delicate amnesty, she did not merely come back as a survivor. She emerged as a figure of intrigue, someone who commanded attention. It was at that moment she crossed paths with Octavian at the age of 24. He found himself entwined in the complexities of life, while she, just 19, navigated her own path, both bound by the vows of marriage. Yet, when Octavian laid his eyes upon Livia, he perceived something beyond mere beauty. He beheld a counterpart. In a matter of months, each found themselves free from their marriages. In a tale that would raise eyebrows throughout the ages, Octavian took Livia as his wife, even as she bore the unmistakable signs of carrying her former husband's child. From that moment onward, she would journey through life alongside Octavian, their fates intertwined. And when he ascended to the title of Augustus, the first emperor of Rome, Livia transformed into something far greater than merely his wife. She transformed into his advisor, his partner, and, as some murmured, the one pulling the strings. When Livia wed Octavian in 38 BCE, the Roman elite found themselves gasping on their wine. Once upon a time, there emerged a brilliant figure in the realm of politics, destined to ascend as Augustus, the inaugural emperor of Rome. Once upon a time, there was a woman navigating the complexities of life, carrying within her the promise of new beginnings, all while emerging from the shadows of a recent divorce. Scandalous barely scratched the surface, yet Augustus remained unfazed, and Livia, she was fully aware of her intentions. In contrast to his former wife, Scribonia, whom Augustus cast aside on the very day their daughter entered the world, Livia stood as a steadfast presence. Free from the tumult of emotional distractions. In her silence lay a sharp mind, always weighing options and navigating the intricate dance of power with finesse. Augustus didn't merely take a wife. He acquired a masterful tactician. From the instant she stepped into his abode, Livia established herself, not merely as an ornamental companion, but as a sovereign in every sense. But named Dot in her elegant salons, she welcomed the influential, engaged with senators, and offered sage counsel to her husband on navigating political foes, all while meticulously crafting her persona as the quintessential Roman matron, dignified, obedient, and unwaveringly loyal. Yet, hidden beneath the unassuming stola and the delicate veil was a mind that outshone many, sharper than the collective intellect of others. Although she never bore the title of empress in her lifetime, such a formal role did not exist. Livia orchestrated her power from the shadows, guiding events with a deft hand. She received her own domain, her own resources, and even a protector by her side. Such a thing was beyond the imagination for a woman of Rome. Yet Augustus placed his unwavering trust in her, while Livia masterfully navigated the intricate dance of time. She chose not to pursue influence in the public sphere. Instead, she wove herself into the very fabric of necessity. During Augustus's absence, Livia took the reins of his affairs with skill and determination. As senators schemed, she softly wove her own intricate tales of counterplots. As challengers emerged, their descent was often swift, shrouded in an air of intrigue. Livia's fingerprints often eluded detection, yet her essence lingered in the shadows, a subtle specter weaving through the fabric of the narrative. And perhaps the most significant detail of all, Livia never bore Augustus a son. Their union bore no offspring, yet instead of slipping into obscurity, she made certain that her son from her first marriage, Tiberius, remained firmly within the sphere of imperial influence. Livia had no desire to don the crown of a queen. Her ambition was to establish a legacy that would endure through the ages. To those who looked on from the outside, she seemed to embody a serene passivity, a fluid grace, and a deep devotion. In a city consumed by indulgence, she participated in sacred rites, lauded Augustus before the masses, and embraced a life of simplicity. Yet, those who dared to underestimate her found themselves facing the consequences. For as Augustus fortified the Roman realm through legions and proclamations, Livia wove her influence through hushed tones, subtle favors, and the gentle art of erasure. The inquiry lingers. To what lengths would she venture to safeguard the empire she was crafting? Whispers abound, hinting that her influence extended far beyond mere political counsel. Despite her outward elegance and unwavering loyalty, Livia Drusilla's name has long been shrouded in an air of intrigue. In particular, the piercing, sugary aroma of venom. As Rome made its grand shift from a republic to an empire, the rivals to Augustus toppled one after another like a perfectly arranged set of dominoes. While the annals of history may not capture Livia's touch upon the cup, they certainly leave room for the possibility. The most notorious claim suggests that Livia meticulously removed anyone who dared to obstruct her son, Tiberius, from ascending to the imperial throne. Let us examine the tally of lives lost. Marcellus, the cherished nephew of Augustus, held a special place in the hearts of many from the very beginning. Passed away at the tender age of 19, reportedly due to an illness. Gaius and Lucius Caesar, the beloved grandsons and chosen heirs of Augustus, stand at the heart of a tale woven with ambition and legacy. Two souls lost in their youth, far from the comforts of home. Agrippa Postumus, the rough-hewn last grandson, cast aside and shrouded in mystery, met a tragic end following Augustus's demise. All rather troublesome. Everything has been taken. Away. And Livia was ever present. To those who stood by her, these deaths were unfortunate twists of fate. In the heart of Rome, shadows danced with disease, while the ruthless games of power unfolded with merciless intensity. To her detractors, Livia resembled a figure from a tragic tale, maneuvering in the shadows, eliminating obstacles and arranging the pieces until only her son was left in the game. Whispers from the past, particularly from the pens of Tacitus and Cassius Dio, wove this tale with intrigue. Livia was depicted as effortlessly composed, shrewd, and fiercely protective in her maternal instincts. It was whispered that she was the true mastermind behind the imperial succession, overshadowing even Augustus himself. In certain retellings, she artfully manipulated Augustus's will or cleverly hid his death just long enough to ensure a seamless transition of authority. Yet one must discern the whispers of smoke from the blaze of fire. There exists no concrete proof that Livia has ever poisoned anyone. Without a confession, there can be no trial. In distant lands, shrouded in mystery, her supposed victims met their untimely ends. Far removed from the heart of Rome. In the grand tapestry of Roman society, the elite reveled in the intrigue of conspiracies, particularly when they wove in the threads of formidable women. Yet the pattern proves to be quite handy. Countless adversaries have met their end. Countless legacies have taken unexpected turns. Whispers linger in the shadows. Even Augustus, who held a deep affection and trust for Livia, once quipped that her priorities lay more with the empire than with his well-being, though it might have been uttered in humor. Much like the quips of ancient Rome, it concealed a sharp truth beneath the surface. In the shadows of intrigue, Livia's actions danced between the realms of deceit and cunning. Whether she truly poured poison into the chalices or deftly outwitted her foes with her allure and intellect, the outcome remained unchanged. Step by step, the journey to dominance unfolded. And as the years unfolded, it became impossible to ignore. Livia was weaving the threads of a grand legacy. She was weaving her way through the ranks, leaving her rivals in her wake. Tiberius was far from a golden boy. He was devoid of the charisma that Marcellus possessed, the widespread appeal that Gaius and Lucius enjoyed, or the enduring legacy that Julius Caesar left behind. He was an enigmatic figure, wrapped in a shroud of chill and solitude. A figure more fitting for solitary contemplation atop a cliff in Rhodes than for leading the vast expanse of the Roman Empire. And so it was that, through the influence of Livia, Tiberius ascended to the throne as emperor. Livia's journey to uplift her son was fraught with challenges. Augustus harbored doubts about him. Tiberius possessed a sharp military intellect, yet his heart held little affection for the realm of politics. He was infamous for his brooding nature, his sudden absences, and his dramatic withdrawal from Roman society in 06 BCE, a defiant gesture aimed squarely at Augustus and Livia. Yet Livia pressed on, unwavering in her pursuit. She wove the tale of his return. With careful precision, she systematically removed her competitors and gradually chipped away at Augustus' resolve. As the shadows of imperial misfortune loomed larger, Marcellus' untimely demise, Lucius' unexpected ailment, Gaius' ill-fated venture to the east, Tiberius emerged, increasingly as the most palatable choice among a sea of despair. In time, Augustus took him under his wing, officially naming him as his son and the one to carry on his legacy. It wasn't love. It was a quiet acceptance of fate. Upon the passing of Augustus in 14 CE, the mantle of the empire was taken up by Tiberius. It was meant to be Livia's grand moment, her son ascending the throne, her legacy firmly established. Yet the grip of power transformed Tiberius in ways that were both peculiar and profound. Once he ascended to power, his demeanor turned even more frigid, filled with doubt and a sense of unease. He departed from the bustling city for extended periods, governing through the written word, while entrusting authority to the formidable Sejanus. He harbored a growing disdain for the Senate, the populace, and with each passing day, even his own mother. Livia, in her own way, sought to weave her influence into the fabric of the unfolding tale. She anticipated being regarded as Augustus had once regarded her, as a confidant, a companion. She was bestowed the title of Augusta, a remarkable distinction. For a woman of Rome, her likeness graced the coins and statues rose tall in tribute to her legacy. She graced the throne alongside her son, a regal presence during the public ceremonies. Yet, in the shadows of solitude, Tiberius brooded. He charged her with weaving a web of influence, crafting a reality he never desired. He is said to have turned away from her in her time of need, and in a most shocking turn of events, he chose not to be present at her funeral when she passed in 29 CE, allowing her body to remain unburied for days, a final act of disrespect towards the woman who had devoted herself to him. Livia emerged victorious in the struggle for succession. Yet she found herself defeated in the quest for her son's love. Livia Drusilla grasped a truth that eluded many Roman men. True influence was not solely derived from the halls of the Senate or the chaos of the battlefield. It was rooted in the way one was perceived, and thus, as Augustus shaped the empire, Livia transformed herself into the quintessential Roman woman. Not a queen, not a ruler, but something far more perilous, an emblem. She adorned herself simply, in the classic stola and veil, never showcasing any jewels or gold dot. Her hair was arranged in the austere, unadorned manner reminiscent of the dignified women of ancient Rome. In the public eye, she extolled the virtues of simplicity, righteousness, and devotion. What lies beneath the surface? She wove intricate webs of influence, orchestrated estates, crafted unions, and sculpted the destinies of politics. Yet the most remarkable endeavor she undertook was the crafting of her own persona. Livia emerged as the embodiment of Roman ideals. Figures of her emerged throughout the empire, not only in Rome, but also in distant provinces where allegiance to the new imperial regime required bolstering. These were not mere figures of divine beings or valiant fighters. She was depicted in a tranquil pose, embodying a sense of calm and nurturing warmth. The message resonated with clarity. In the heart of Rome, a new empire found its sanctuary under the guidance of a woman steeped in wisdom, morality, and tradition. It unfolded like a captivating lesson in the art of influence. She championed the creation of public works and the sacred traditions of religious rituals. She found her place among the divine, embracing the essence of Ceres and the sacred traditions of Vesta, embodiments of abundance and harmony within the home. As Augustus proclaimed his transformation of Rome from a humble city of brick to a magnificent city of marble, Livia ensured that her legacy was intricately woven into that very marble. Even the coins transformed. Some bore her visage, a rarity, indeed, for a woman. Others spoke of her admirable qualities: Pietas, Concordia, Fortuna. Livia was more than a mere matron. She was a guiding light, beautifully crafted and shining bright. This was not mere self-importance. It was a safeguard. In a world where men held the reins and women were often cast aside without a second thought, Livia wove herself into the very fabric of Rome's political landscape. She stood apart from the trappings of power. She moved seamlessly within the gears of the machine, and Augustus danced to the rhythm of her presence. He spoke of her in his final testament. He bequeathed her a third of his fortune. In a poignant twist of fate, he embraced her into the Julian family after her passing, bestowing upon her the name Julia Augusta, a strategic maneuver, indeed, yet also a testament to her pivotal contribution in shaping the empire. With a blend of imagery, unwavering patience, and an undeniable allure, Livia transformed herself into a captivating new being. A Roman woman whose strength commands attention, whose presence is cherished, and whose intellect is a force to be reckoned with. In the midst of the chaos that defined the Julio-Claudian dynasty, filled with madmen, monsters, and megalomaniacs. One might be surprised to discover that it was crafted by a gentle woman from Astola. Yet Livia Drusilla was more than merely the first lady of Rome. She was the architect of its legacy. It all started with her own son, Tiberius, as the first chapter of her intricate plan unfolded. She swept the board clean for him, yet her aspirations soared beyond that moment. Her grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and stepchildren were intricately intertwined in a delicate tapestry of connections, unions, and carefully crafted arrangements. This was not a matter of family planning. Behold, the grandeur of imperial architecture. In a twist of fate, she orchestrated the union of her granddaughter Livilla with Drusus the Younger, who happened to be her own grandson. Another granddaughter, Julia the Younger, found herself entwined with Lucius Aemilius Paulus, a senator of notable standing. Each action was a stone set in the grand edifice of empire. Yet Livia was far more than a mere orchestrator of connections. She wove a tapestry of bloodlines, binding loyalty with threads of trust, all while keeping a vigilant eye on those who might threaten her realm. Even Germanicus, the immensely celebrated general and the chosen son of Tiberius, bore the unmistakable marks of Livia's influence on his rise to prominence. He took Agrippina the Elder as his wife, the granddaughter of Augustus. The union brought together the Julian and Claudian lines, marking a moment of both symbolic significance and strategic victory. Indeed, empires forged in the fires of intrigue and suspicion seldom emerge unscathed. Conflict ignited among the ranks, whispers of treason, scandalous affairs, and unquenchable ambition swirled among the imperial heirs, with many chroniclers suggesting that Livia deftly orchestrated the ensuing turmoil. If the preservation of a dynasty's essence demanded that someone be cast out, shamed, or simply disappear into the shadows, then so be it. The twist of fate! The Julio-Claudian line would descend into chaos. Following Tiberius, the stage was set for Caligula, the son of Germanicus, who would etch his name into the annals of history as one of its most notorious tyrants. Then arrived Claudius, her great-nephew, and rather awkwardly, her grandson-in-law. Then Nero, a figure shaped by the lineage of Livia and the intricate web of her ambitions. As Nero played his tune amidst the flames of Rome, Livia's lineage resembled a blazing inferno. Yet let there be no doubt, each limb of that tree bore the mark of Livia's influence. Though she never witnessed the fall of the empire, she was the architect of its very foundation. As Augustus presided over a realm of grandeur and military might, Livia orchestrated her own domain, woven from the threads of lineage, alliances, and cunning strategy. For the next 50 years, every emperor would find his claim to power rooted in her legacy. In the grand tapestry of dynasties, she was not merely a link. She was the one who crafted the very chain itself. Livia Drusilla's life was a tapestry woven through the ages. It feels like an eternity if you were to ask her son Tiberius. She had navigated the treacherous waters of Julius Caesar's assassination, witnessed the Republic's demise, outmaneuvered a dozen rival heirs, and adapted to the dawn of empire. She surpassed Augustus, deftly navigated her adversaries, and elevated her lineage to divine status. In her twilight years, she found herself locked in a deepening conflict with the very man she had devoted herself to uplift, Tiberius. Their bond was always frigid, yet in his role as emperor, Tiberius became even more distant. He felt the deep-seated bitterness towards her sway, her persistent shadow in the court, her relentless attempts to counsel, and maybe dominate him. And Livia, after years of steering an empire with her wisdom and strength, was not one to fade away quietly into the comforts of her villa. A palpable tension filled the courtroom. Tiberius, in a dramatic turn of events, chose to retreat from the bustling heart of Rome, seeking solace in the isolation of Capri, where he would dwell in self-imposed exile. He entrusted the reins of power to Sejanus, a figure marked by ambition and a ruthless pursuit of control, as his Praetorian prefect. Livia lingered in Rome, enveloped by statues, accolades, and the haunting stillness of being celebrated, yet no longer essential. As she succumbed to illness in 29 CE, the world around her did not echo with the sorrow one would anticipate for the revered matriarch of the Julio-Claudian dynasty. Tiberius turned his back on Rome, steadfast in his decision. He chose not to be present at her farewell. He postponed her elevation to the divine, withheld her accolades from the public eye, and in a most heartless act, allowed her remains to lie unburied for days. For the woman who had crafted an empire, it was a chilling and deliberate rejection. Could it be a small act of retribution, regret, or perhaps a last stand from a son who never sought the throne? In the annals of time, Tiberius would emerge as a figure shrouded in shadows, a ruler whose mind was ensnared by the specters of his mother's influence. Livia had woven the threads of his ascent, smoothed the obstacles in his way, and secured his dominion. Yet in her actions, she might have extinguished the flicker of warmth that once connected them. To Tiberius, her guidance probably seemed akin to a tether, binding him in ways he may not have welcomed. She departed this world at the age of 86, having journeyed through nearly 9 decades of Rome's most transformative years. Never before had a Roman woman commanded such enduring influence or shared the imperial stage with emperors for such an extended period. And yet, her concluding passage was defined not by victory, but by an echoing stillness, deceived not by foes, but by the child she had nurtured to ascend the throne. Livia Drusilla met her end as a mortal, but the tale of her legacy was far from over in the annals of Rome. Even as Tiberius turned away from honoring her in her final moments, the legacy she crafted continued to echo through the annals of the Aenals. Empire. In time, her grandchildren, most notably the Emperor Claudius, who was both her great-nephew and grandson-in-law, would come to reinstate her honor within the grand tapestry of the imperial legacy. In the year 42 CE, more than 10 years following her passing, Claudius took the momentous step of officially deifying Livia. She transformed into Diva Augusta, a revered goddess of the state. It was the ultimate ascension for the woman who had dedicated her existence to weaving influence from the unseen corners of the universe. Altars rose from the earth, and priestesses were chosen to serve their sacred purpose. Her likeness was forever intertwined with that of Augustus in sacred spaces and grand rituals. In her passing, she transformed into an entity unlike any woman. Before her, a divine figure endorsed by the Roman state. Yet, forgiveness did not bring forth sanctification. For ages, the whispers of Livia's name wove through the fabric of legend. In the annals of history, the voices of ancient chroniclers, predominantly male, often found themselves perplexed by her presence. Tacitus depicted her as shrewd and distant, a woman who mastered the skills of her gender. Cassius Dio portrayed her as an empress in every sense, save for the title, a figure of power, weaving influence with a touch of cunning, perhaps linked to a series of untimely demises that seemed to align with their ambitions. Then arrived Suetonius, weaving together whispers and chronicles. He didn't explicitly claim that Livia poisoned Augustus, yet he undeniably allowed the whisper of the tale to linger in the air. And yet, even those who opposed her could not deny her brilliance. She embraced a simple life. She reigned with a subtle grace. She moved through the world with quiet grace, never showcasing her power, never addressing the masses, never stepping into the spotlight of politics. And yet, she wove the destiny of Rome more intricately than many a man draped in the toga. Contemporary chroniclers have endeavored to weave together the threads of truth and imagination. Was she a cold-blooded killer, or merely a brilliant tactician? A devoted partner, or a cunning strategist? The reality might encompass all these facets, yet her influence is unmistakable. In the absence of Livia, Tiberius ceases to exist. In the absence of Tiberius, the Julio-Claudian dynasty would not exist. A gentle touch, she led the empire into its infancy, her bloodline reigning over its inaugural century, and her legend lingered in the minds of historians for countless ages. In a realm ruled by emperors, conquerors, and demigods, Livia achieved what no woman had ever dared to accomplish. In the heart of Rome, she wove her influence from the shadows, rising to the heavens not through the clash of swords or the power of words, but through the sheer force of her will to survive. Ultimately, the tale of Livia Drusilla transcends mere palaces, poisons, and statues. It tells the tale of a woman who skillfully maneuvered through the most treacherous political terrain ever witnessed, all without wielding a weapon or uttering a word. In the grand tapestry of Rome, women found themselves woven into the fabric of society, yet often kept from the loom of true power. And yet, in a most intriguing manner, Livia crafted a new narrative without ever revealing that she was the one guiding the tale. She never stood before the Senate to deliver a speech, never led an army into battle, and never bore an official title while her husband ruled. For 5 decades, every significant decision in the empire felt her touch before it came to fruition. She carved her place beside Augustus, not with allure or gentleness, but with unwavering loyalty, sharp intellect, and a masterful command of her own narrative. In a society that revered the ideals of modesty in women, she emerged as the quintessential representation of Roman virtue. She embodied the roles of wife, mother, and divine presence. Yet, she was the one who orchestrated the game, the architect of power. And some murmured, the Queen of Rome in every sense, the title. Her brilliance lay in the art of nuance, while other women of the imperial family, such as Messalina or Agrippina the Younger, faced scorn for their ambition, Livia navigated the treacherous waters of power unscathed, wrapped in the guise of virtue. She donned tradition as if it were a shield. In her actions, she laid the foundation for every formidable Roman woman who would follow in her footsteps. Yet, her legacy weaves a tapestry of complexity. The empire she crafted would descend into chaos and bloodshed. Her lineage bore emperors, such as Caligula and Nero, figures whose indulgences would tarnish the legacy she had tirelessly sought to uplift. And her own connection with Tiberius concluded not in victory, but in a hush and an icy distance. With great power there comes a price to pay. Yet, through it all, Livia persists. She stands as a captivating figure in ancient history, not for ruling Rome in a masculine manner, but for her unique approach that no man could replicate. With patience, silence, and a formidable brilliance, she grasped the essence of true power, one that does not need to raise its voice. It softly murmurs. Livia Drusilla was not merely an observer of the empire's dawn. She brought it into the world. She wove the threads of a dynasty into the fabric of time. She crafted it with precision. She required neither a throne nor a crown to etch her name in the annals of history. What she sought was simply the gift of time. From the very start, Livia had skillfully orchestrated her strategy, playing the long game with finesse.